What's going on, guys? We are back. Sports Moods, here to talk about this past week in sports. NFL, college sports, WWE, the World Series is going on, and it's a game tonight in the NBA. We are Sports Moods, two Moodies,
one duty.
Sports. Let's get into it. What's going on, guys? As always, I am C. Moody here with
D. Moody.
We are Sports Moods. We're about to go ahead and dive into this week's podcast, recapping this past week in sports, starting as always with the NFL Week 7. And if you are keeping score with us, I took advantage off of this week. My scores from the games ended up with 11-4. That's right. I predicted 11 right, 4 wrong. D. Moody was right behind me with 9 right, 6 wrong, which does make me Guru of the Week. That did add a 2-point advantage, 2-point spread on our season's predictions. As a total, it is now for me 64-42. And D. Moody's is 60-46. So it is very close. I'm just getting by week, and I'm just hoping that I can maintain it for 9 more weeks, which sounds very far away considering the margin I was at the beginning and how close it is now. But we're going to dive into the first game, which was Thursday Night Football, which we actually was talking about during last week's podcast as it was going on. But both of us did predict in the game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Oakland Raiders for Kansas City to win, and Oakland prevailed in a very close game, 31-30. I forgot about what happened at this controversy at the end of that game.
And you notice how we kept thinking that the Chiefs won, but it was so many penalties. I've never seen a game where you had so many penalties on the last play of the game.
Exactly.
And so many redos, and then eventually you give a team that many opportunities to put it in the end zone. It's not like they were given the opportunity, but so many things went wrong.
Right. Back
to back. I mean. And then Kansas City just couldn't keep him out of the end zone. I mean, that was just saw so many different calls that went against them at the end of the game. It was one of the most bizarre endings to a football game that I've ever seen.
Yeah, definitely, man. For total yards, the Raiders had the advantage as well on that, 505 total yards, while Kansas City was only held to 425 total yards. Derek Carr had a great game, 29-52, 417 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And Amari Cooper had a great night, 11 receptions, 210 yards with 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, and also Jared Cook for the Raiders had 6 receptions for 107 yards as their tight end, so he had a breakout game too.
Yeah.
Oakland's offense looked the way that I thought they would look all season.
What they should have looked all season.
Finally, in this game. Also, too, I mean, we saw the controversy with Beast Mode.
Yeah.
Running out onto the field, making contact with an official, trying to break up the scrum with the Derek Carr situation and the Chiefs player.
Right.
So I don't understand you want to take up for your quarterback there, but I mean it's beast mode. He don't really care. He's gonna do what he wants to do, how he wants to do it, when he wants to do it, and he just at that moment he just felt like I'm gonna run out here, I'm gonna defend my quarterback. I'm not gonna let you try to cheap shot him or whatever. And the only thing I do understand the part of running on the field, but you just can't touch the official.
Right.
In no way, shape, or fashion is that ever going to be okay.
Yeah, he should have watched Raw a couple weeks ago and saw what happened to Alicia Fox for hitting the referee. Mm-hmm. So it made me think about that. It was like a couple weeks ago it was on Raw. It was on what we would call the scripted sports, and then we see it right here on NFL with Marshawn Lynch. But to me it just seems like Marshawn is just pretty much enjoying the game and not really caring about
the rules,
circumstances.
Yeah, he don't really care about that. Yeah, he doesn't.
more now than ever.
Yeah, especially with even in his Seattle days. Like, I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Right.
I'm just here so I don't get fined. I mean, that was classic. I mean, a lot of people don't really like how he treats the media or how he carries himself. I mean, we saw a couple weeks ago with him with the Trump shirt on, when he came.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, he came in. I forgot exactly what it said on the shirt, but it was something after Trump said what he said. It was like a bashing of Trump on the shirt. He came into the... Go ahead, give him... I mean, yeah.
So, because we do know in recent weeks, Trump has basically said all the NFL who protest are SOBs, and he wished that the owners would fire them, in which we had this retaliation from owners. It seems like it's starting to die down, but the problem is still there. I noticed the NFL, PA, and the league itself have starting to have meetings pertaining, how they're going to further go about this situation. And what I did see earlier this morning on ESPN is that, or I don't know what source I saw it from, but they were requesting that maybe sometime next month that Colin Kaepernick comes to this meeting about the protest.
So the shirt says everybody versus Trump.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Whew.
So, yeah, he wore that to a game or whatever.
Honestly, that doesn't seem that bad to me. I mean...
It's not. It wasn't like egregious, but,
The worst I saw was that he made the word Trump orange. I mean, everybody picks about his color, so... That's it, really.
But, yeah, so Marshawn did get, disciplined by the NFL for that incident, suspended for one game, so he will not be in action this upcoming week in the Raiders game. Or whenever the next time they play.
Yeah.
And then just going over some of Kansas City's numbers, obviously their second straight loss. They came into this game after a loss to the Steelers the week before. Both of these teams working off a short week. Playing those Thursday night games can always be a quick turnaround.
Yeah, definitely.
Alex Smith was 25 for 36, 342 yards, 3 touchdown passes. So he did more than what he was supposed to do. He's put together some solid performances. A lot of people feel he's the MVP of the league right now.
Yeah, he's definitely consistent.
Him right now or Carson Wentz are really kind of leading that conversation right now. Kareem Hunt had 18 carries, 87 yards. Tyreek Hill had 6 receptions, 125 yards, and a touchdown. And then going into this game, Kansas City, they were 3-point favorites going in. And then obviously, again, the Raiders had lost 4 straight after a 2-0 start. So they was kind of like a must-win situation for them.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really see many teams come out of a 2-5 hole and make the playoffs, so, they're still uphill battle this season for them, even though they win this game, to finally end that losing streak. But what I just noticed upon my research this week, despite the Raiders, struggling offensively as of late, Derek Carr is still in the top 10 in the league in QBR. Mm-hmm. He's still in the top half of the league in touchdown passes, which he has 8, and number 4 in completion percentage. But just a lot of that just hasn't translated into wins for the Raiders. So it's not like they're playing poor football, but it's just, they've met up with some really good teams, and they've had some unfortunate situations happen with Derek Carr's injury, and then Amari Cooper has been struggling, finally having that breakout game. Because if you remember on last week's podcast, I was just like,
exactly.
Hey, Cooper's falling off the face of the earth. I was about to put him on a milk cart and see if somebody could find him. But, I mean, he came up and stepped up really, really big for the Raiders in that one. And then the Chiefs defense just didn't have an answer for it. And we already hit on the controversial final play. It was a lot. I know for sure a lot of defensive holding calls, on the Chiefs there at the end, and then eventually Michael Crabtree catches the game-winning 2-yard touchdown to win it for him. And then Derek Carr was only sacked once in the game, and then the Chiefs defense gave up 32 first downs to the Raiders.
Yeah.
And then neither team turned the ball over, which was surprisingly when you see a game with that much back and forth going on. You would think there would be a couple of turnovers in the midst of everything,
right.
But they were able to still play really good football without turning the ball over. And I guess that's why it came down to the final play like that, because both teams were, executing the way they wanted to. But I still feel like the Chiefs are still good. I just think
definitely.
It's more of a reality check for them. I think they'll be there in the conversation in the AFC. They've 5-2 right now, and Oakland is 3-4. So it was just a must-win situation for the Raiders. They just were not going to lose that game. They just kept fighting and fighting and fighting, and they just pulled it out with some help at the end, I would say.
Right.
From the officials. Usually the final play of a game, the officials let the teams play.
Exactly.
And sometimes you don't really see them throw a lot of flags that's going to determine how the game is going to end. A lot of times they kind of hold their whistles or hold the flags and just kind of let it be, and then we'll be having these conversations. Well, they should have called that play because that could have been holding on that play, or that could have been, that looked like pass interference that wasn't called. But this crew just, every little thing they did, they threw the flag, and it gave Oakland a lot of chances, and they finally took advantage of it.
Yeah, and like I've always said about Oakland, man, they just have to work on just key components. I never felt like, they should have been winning more than what they have. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to say that just to say that Alex Smith had two of his 3 touchdown passes. One was to Tyreek Hill for a 64-yard touchdown. Another one was to Albert Wilson for a 63-yard touchdown. So, for them to get that kind of gains twice for touchdowns still shows the holes that the Raiders defense does have. But like you said, they did have some help at the end from the officials. So, either way, a win's a win,
Yeah.
I
guess was good. They needed it for sure.
Oh, definitely.
They really did. And this could be one of those wins we look back and that could potentially save their season. So
yeah, definitely, man. So next game I have coming up, my boys, I'm going ahead of time. I'm going to do this. My LA Rams introduced Arizona Cardinals and shut them down 33-0. Big win for my boys. Jared Goff having a great game. 22 for 37, 235 yards, 1 touchdown. I won't say great because he still had an interception. Ty Gurley II, 22 carries for 106 yards, 1 touchdown. All in all, the total yards, the Rams have 425 yards and held Arizona to 193 yards. So less than 200 total yards. It's a great game for my boys.
Awesome performance. Very unfortunate situation for the Cardinals. They do lose Carson Palmer to a broken arm, and he could miss the rest of the season just after his solid performance last week. And then getting Adrian Peterson, and things were looking up for the Cardinals. Yeah. We thought, hey, man, this could be a team to watch, down the stretch of the season. But, anytime you lose your quarterback, that's already losing David Johnson to start the season, their star running back, and now their quarterback's out. So, yeah, it's going to be pretty tough down the stretch for the Cardinals going forward. But, Palmer was 10 of 18 for 122 yards before he went out with the injury. Didn't throw any touchdowns in the game. Adrian Peterson only 11 carries for 21 yards in the game. So, they, like you said, that Rams defense really showed up, and like you said, it held them to under 200 yards total offense. And the Rams are 5-2. I would have to say I am intrigued by this team just to kind of see going forward what this team is going to do. That every week they are gaining momentum and they're doing things that I don't expect them to do.
Yes, sir.
So it's looking good right now. So we're almost more than halfway through the season. They've already surpassed their win total from a year ago. So this is a successful season But, I mean, still a lot of games left to play. But, I mean, just to step back for a quick second and just look at the body of work that they've done with these young stars they have there. And Ty Gurley is really having a really good season. Jared Goff is developing and getting better by the week, it seems. I still think he has a long way to go in his production, but I like what this young head coach Sean McVay is doing with this team.
I just was about to say that, man. And a lot of it, credit has to go to the coaching.
He's doing really good.
It seems like the whole dynamic has changed since they
when
let go
Fisher
of Fisher.
Was there,
oh, my gosh.
It was horrendous. I mean, they played solid defense because Jeff Fisher's a defensive-minded coach.
Yeah.
But they had the offensive weapons, but it just wasn't.
Yeah, he didn't know how to utilize them.
It wasn't meshing well together when he was there. So my question though is are the Rams legit? And I think that still has to be answered. I still need to see a little bit more from this team, but just from what I've seen thus far, they look like the real deal.
Are we legit, huh? Yeah. We're gonna find out.
Too quick.
We're gonna find out. Next game, we got Carolina Panthers versus the Chicago Bears. Both of us did go for Carolina, and very big upset. I mean, to say the least, but I mean, also a great performance, I would say, for Chicago to shut down the Carolina, hold them to 3 points. They're picking up the win, 17-3. I wanted to say Trubisky on 4 for 7, 107 yards. Shows not a lot of just offense going off on these sides of the ball. While on the other side, Cam Newton went 21 for 34 for 201 yards, but threw 2 interceptions. Those 2 interceptions, one of them being a run back by Eddie Jackson, a 76-yard interception, pick 6. But Cam Newton still got also 50 yards rushing and 9 carries. And going back to Eddie Jackson, not only did he have a 76 interception return for a touchdown, he also had a 75 fumble recovery for a touchdown. So really just the defense is what made the difference in this game. And Chicago's defense is looking better as the weeks go by.
It does, and by doing that, he became the first NFL player to score multiple defensive touchdowns of 75 yards or more in a game. So, again, the fumble recovery for 75 yards and the interception return for 76. And that won the game. You take those two things away, it's 3-3. Because, I mean, the offense...
Yeah, you're right.
The offense for the Bears is just... I mean, obviously, Trubisky just... 7 pass attempts in a game.
Right.
I mean, you expect that from a high school game maybe. But the running game was equally as good for the Bears. And then their defense sacked Cam Newton 5 times. And Newton has just been very careless with the ball this season. Like I said, I knew they lost a couple of games. But this is the same team that beat the Patriots a few weeks ago. And it's a matter of what a few weeks can make you look like. I mean, he wasn't sharp against the Eagles. And then you had the extra time to prepare for the Bears. But the Bears have been that team that just finds weird ways to win football games. I mean,
Always.
They beat the Steelers. They beat the Ravens last week. And then now beating Carolina. And they're sitting there at 3-4 right now. Could be one of those spoiler-type teams going down the stretch that could be a lot of trap games for the teams to come that they have to face. But I'm very shocked that the Panthers played this way. They're 4-3, and with the Saints kind of emerging in that division right now, and given the way that New Orleans beat them a few weeks back, it could be a run between those two teams. And then with Atlanta struggling the way they've been for the NFC South division. So I'm actually anxious to see how that division race will go down the stretch of the season. But it's a win for the Bears. I'm pretty sure they'll take it.
Yeah.
Doesn't always have to be pretty. But as long as you get it.
A win's a win, man. And get this, nobody scored the second half. All this happened in the first two quarters.
In the first half of the game. Wow. So it was 17-3 at half, and then just
that was
shutout performance the rest of the way. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's... A lot of defense being played there.
Right. Good defense or bad offense, however you want to call it. So, what's the next game you got on your list?
I'm going to go with Vikings versus the Ravens here.
Okay.
We had a breakout game from Mr. Latavius Murray. We really didn't know what the running back situation was going to look like for the Vikings when Dalvin Cook went down with his injury. It's kind of been McKinnon, Jerick McKinnon being the guy, but Latavius Murray, former Raider running back, broke out 18 carries, 113 yards. He had a 29-yard rushing touchdown in the game. Case Keenum, kind of a subpar day, I would say, by the way he's been playing as of late. 20 of 31, 188 yards. Didn't throw any touchdowns in the game. Did have an interception as well.
Yeah.
And then Joe Flacco. 27 for 39, just 186 yards, and did throw a touchdown in the game.
Throw a touchdown.
Those numbers have not really been looking good for Mr. Flacco. The Ravens fall to the Vikings 24-16. Yeah. And like I said, just my observation from this game, same old Ravens, man.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
Despite the injuries, I don't see much potential in this team. I don't see it. They could be a dangerous team down the stretch, if they can put together a nice little run. But I just expect them to be what they are right now, a 500 or less than 500 football team. Just going forward, now that Latavius Murray has had this breakout performance, I'm just anxious to know, how this running back situation is going to continue now in Minnesota. Will Murray get more of the carries now from his big performance, or was it just the fact of he had a better day against the Ravens defense where McKinnon really didn't stand out as much? But I know McKinnon is a better catcher of the football, which gives him a double threat attack where he can run it and catch it at the same time. But I think the Vikings have a pretty good chance here to win the NFC North with Matthew and the Lions continuing to struggle, and then Rodgers being out for Green Bay, with the injury, this could be an opening for the Vikings to really, take a hold of that division. What do you think?
Definitely, man. The Vikings are pulling it out, man. They're starting to just find ways to win in all aspects. I know just a couple of weeks ago it was the defense. Now we have, honestly, to me, the special teams won this. And you have to give a shout out to Kiefer Baith, their kicker, had 6 field goals. So, on that, he pretty much outscored the Ravens itself by himself. That's 18 points on the board, adding on to Latavius Murray's 29-yard touchdown. So, yeah, they're becoming a complete team. I can say that. Like I said, they're finding ways to win in all aspects, but I feel like they still have a little bit more to prove to show how complete they are supposed to be. But yeah, definitely in their division, the way that the Lions are starting to struggle a little bit, so they definitely have a great opportunity to just take that division. So
yeah, especially with the situation in Green Bay right now, and then if Matthew can't. $1 Million Matthew can't seem to get it together, then Vikings could have a chance.
Yeah.
Next game I have is the Jets versus the Dolphins. This actually turned out to be a really good game. But just obviously another game where we lose another starting quarterback. Jay Cutler, rib/chest injury. He went in the game before getting injured. 12 out of 16, 138 yards. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, but Matt Moore had to come in relief after the injury to Cutler, where he went 13 of 21, 188 yards, 2 touchdowns, did throw a pick in the game, but Miami had to rally from behind. They trailed 14 points after 3 quarters. They scored 17 points in the 4th quarter. Kenny Stills had 2 fourth-quarter touchdown receptions, which tied the game. Overall in the game, Kenny Stills had 6 receptions for 85 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jarvis Landry had a nice day as well. 7 receptions, 93 yards and a touch in the game as well. And then Josh McCown for the Jets, 3 touchdown passes in the game. He went 17 to 27, 209 yards. Did throw a pick in the game as well. Dolphins win it 31 to 28 to split the season series with the Jets, and with that loss, the Dolphins moved to 4-2, and they have won 3 in a row after a 1-2 start.
Yeah.
And kind of putting some pressure on the Patriots there in that AFC East division, which they've yet to face New England this season. But they're sitting there third place right now, right behind the Buffalo Bills in the AFC East division. So what did you think of this game?
Oh, man, I didn't get to catch this game, actually. But it's a good performance by their backup quarterback to show that, despite his one interception, he pretty much had a really good game, pretty efficient passing, to say that, you're coming off the bench. Usually, like you said in the other week when Aaron Rodgers went down, you're supposed to be prepped to play, but you don't see it coming when you actually know when it's your actual time to play. So for him to, to perform like that and then pull out that win, getting those 2 touchdowns towards the end of the game, it was just a real good performance, man. Josh McCown on the other side of the ball had a good game too. Like you said, the Jets, even though they haven't been winning, they still look like a pretty good team. So both of these teams, surprisingly, are something you have to look out for. I mean, like you said, Miami's now at 4-2. And considering how they started, even though they had a good first win, I think they lost the next 2 games, if I'm not mistaken. So I pretty much underestimated them. And now, like I said, they're rallying up to, start to become maybe a pretty good team, considering the teams that the Jets have beaten before. And for them to do this to them doesn't mean that they can beat anybody that the Jets beat, but this is a good win for them. So coming down the stretch in the season, halfway in the season now.
And then with Matt Moore, he used to be the starting quarterback in Miami a few years back, and then he was kind of got in some playtime last year too when Ryan Tannehill went down with the injury at the end of the year, and then Tannehill gets injured again before the start of the season. So it's like Miami's draft pick from a few years back, where's his place going to be whenever he gets back healthy again? Because, he was supposed to be who they're building their franchise around. And now we got Matt Moore, possible Jay Cutler. Because that's why they went out and got Jay Cutler, because Ryan Tannehill went down with the injury because Jay Cutler was retired. And, I guess Adam Gase, their head coach, familiar with Jay Cutler being the former offensive coordinator in Chicago, went with Cutler knowing that they worked together before, they know each other. But, I'm just anxious to see if Matt Moore is going to hold the position down and what he can do with it, and then see how far Miami can go with this momentum they're building up. 3-game win streak now.
And just a good shout out for Cody Parkey at the 39-yard field goal at the end of the game to win it for them. We see that kickers this year makes the difference in a lot of situations. Either, of course, winning the field goal, but we've seen a lot of kickers, veterans and otherwise, underperforming when it matters the most. So, I think more so now than ever, field goal kickers now have a very bigger, important role. Even though, like you said, you have one job, but the execute when you're supposed to.
In the pressure moment.
Right.
That is a tough job.
Yeah.
Unless you're Adam Vinatieri. But we're going to save that for another day. Gotta love Adam Vinatieri.
I bet.
My Pats fans out there. The next game. The Saints travel to Lambeau Field to take on an Aaron Rodgers-less Green Bay Packers team. As we know, the Saints did start the season off 0-2. Now have collected their 4th straight win. They beat Green Bay 26-17. Green Bay falls to 4-3, losing 2 in a row now. Drew Brees in the game, 27-38, 331 yards. Did have a touchdown pass in the game. Mark Ingram had a breakout game for the Saints as well. 22 rushes, 105 yards, and a rushing TD in the game. Ted Ginn has really been stepping up these last few weeks. Even though he didn't have a touchdown reception in the game, he did have 7 receptions for 141 yards receiving in the game. So that was a nice performance there for him. And then on the other side for Green Bay, backup quarterback Hundley, 12 of 25, failed to even throw for 100 yards in the game. 87 yards passing, 0 touchdown passes in the game. pretty much a run-dominant offensive attack for Green Bay by Jones. Jones had 17 carries, 131 yards. Did have a touchdown in the game. And then get this, Green Bay arguably probably has one of the better receiving corps in the NFL. With Jordy Nelson, Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb. All three of those receivers only combined for 5 receptions and 40 yards. So that's pretty much most of their offense when Aaron Rodgers is running that passing attack goes through those 3 players. And for them to 5 receptions, 40 yards, you can tell that Aaron Rodgers is truly being missed right now for sure in that offense.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, with Hundley not even getting to 100 as a team, the Green Bay only racked up 260 total yards. As while on the other side, the Saints hit 485 total yards, so almost 500 in comparison to 260 total yards for the Green Bay Packers. So,
yeah,
it looks unfortunate for the Green Bay Packers if Hundley can't play to. I know we can't expect him to be an Aaron Rodgers, but if he can't pick up his performance so they can spread this ball around and make people, need to put their passing attack a little bit better, then we're going to see a great decline for the Green Bay Packers this year. I think it's already been confirmed Aaron Rodgers won't be back for this season. So
he's going to be
So if Hundley can't do it, if they don't decide to pick up somebody else, or it's going to look like it's going to be just a pretty bad year, and hopefully they can get some more wins, but I don't see much coming out of Green Bay now unless Brian Hundley can pick up his performance.
So Saints 4 in a row now, second straight week. Their run game has been a shining piece of their offense, and that's got to feel good for Drew Brees, feeling like you don't have to do everything as the quarterback to generate offense and points for your team, that your running game can show up and give you that balanced attack and kind of make you more of a more lethal offense than just always having to throw the ball all the time. You can control the tempo.
Yeah, definitely. So
but the next game I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Buffalo Bills. This one was a close one. 30-27 was the final. The Bills did get the win to move to 4-2. The Bucs fall to 2-4. Pretty much it came down to a late turnover, which led to the game-winning field goal for the Bills. Jameis Winston threw for 384 yards, a solid day for him. And we didn't know if he would play this week due to the injury last week, but he did say that he never missed a game. He don't think he'll ever miss a game.
Yeah.
So he did show up for his team here. 384 yards passing, 3 TDs in the game. I think O.J. Howard really stepped up at the tight end position for them. And usually it's Cameron Brate, but both of them had a good game. They had a nice little dual tight end attack going in the passing game. Usually Cameron Brate has been the guy who has generated more targets than O.J. Howard. Now, this week, O.J. Howard finds the end zone, I think, for the first time this season. Did he have 2 touchdowns in the game?
I think he did, actually. O.J. Howard did have 2 touchdowns.
2 touchdowns in the game. His first 2 of the season. But on the side for the Bills, LaShawn McCoy had 23 carries, 91 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns as well. The Bucs lose another close one. What do you think of the game, man?
I think it was a good performance. The Bills just keep winning right now, honestly. Tyrod Taylor had a pretty good performance. To get up almost 300 yards with a touchdown. LaShawn McCoy still playing good run ball with almost 100 yards, 91 yards, 2 touchdowns. I like the Bills, man. I really like what the Bills are doing, and they just, I won't say that they're like a major threat right now, but they are silently executing more than anticipated. I mean, they only lost 2 games in the season so far. So it's a team you definitely have to look out for.
East, and as a Patriots fan, oh man, y'all playing a weak division, y'all playing a sorry division. I'm just like, but now this division doesn't look like it's going to be that easy to win this year. So we've yet to play Buffalo yet or Miami. From a New England fan perspective here, So both of those teams looking really good to start it out. So, and the Jets aren't that far behind either. So it should be a photo finish down to the wire finish in the AFC East if things continue to remain the same. So Bucks fall to 2-4. Bills are now 4-2. What's your next game, C. Moody?
The next game I have is the Tennessee Titans taking on the Cleveland Browns in a lackluster performance, at least on the Tennessee Titans side, winning 12-9 in overtime. So as you can tell,
rhyme, man?
Huh?
Trying to rhyme?
Hey, man, it's natural.
12-9 in overtime.
Right. Hey, but you can see from the numbers that this was a field goal game. Marcus Mariota did get 21 for 34, 203 yards. But it was, like I said, down to the kickers. Ryan Suckup hitting a 47-yard field goal for the win in overtime, hitting all 4 of his field goals to basically win out the game for them. On the other side, you have Zane Gonzalez keeping up, hitting also a good 54-yard field goal to tie the game and take it into overtime. On the other side, you have Kessler with 120 yards and 10 for 19, but with the interception. Just really, like I said, a special teams game. It wasn't really much to pick on this. And even though the Tennessee Titans win, I really get more disappointed in their performance. It just really doesn't seem like they have everything together. And I have high aspects for Mariota, but even though he had 200 yards, I don't see a reason for him not to score on Cleveland. Not to say, Cleveland is defeated. They have no wins, so not saying that they're a horrible team. We've seen them challenge a couple of teams in the recent weeks, but I guess I just expect more for the Titans for me. So, how do you feel about this?
I think you said everything.
Yeah, it's just...
I really don't have much to say on this game. Cleveland is Cleveland.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Tennessee did struggle the way that they did.
Exactly.
I thought they would kind of run away with this, but they get the win. The NFL, man, it don't always have to be pretty, like I said.
Yeah.
You find a way to get it done and survive and advance to the next week. It looks like they had a quarterback change at one point for Cleveland. Deshaun Kaiser was in at one point. He threw 2 interceptions. Kessler threw 1. So it looks like we did hot potato with the quarterback there. Titans got 3 interceptions on them, and they just field goal kicker reliable. Sometimes that kicker could be the reason.
Yeah, makes
as
the difference.
Said, a few minutes ago, Ryan Suckup comes through with it.
Especially considering this whole game was just field goals.
Field goal. Just could just put the kickers out there and just let them have a kick.
Right.
And whoever wins the game.
That's all it was.
No offense needed.
Yeah.
No offensive touchdowns in the game. So defensive power struggle at its finest.
Definitely. The next game I'm going to get into is another shutout performance. Jacksonville doing what you should do against a defeated.
You addressed them.
Not defeated, huh?
You addressed them the wrong way.
I said
it's not Jacksonville. It's Saxonville.
Oh wow, Saxonville.
That's what they call them now.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey, it's deserved. It's deserved.
Hey.
I like that. Saxonville.
Yeah. And if you don't know why, I didn't mean to take it.
No, go ahead. Go into it. I like how you brought it in.
Yeah, Saxonville. It's time to start giving this team some respect.
Definitely.
We got to put some respect on their name, man. It was a shutout victory.
Yeah. And not defeated. They do have 2 wins, but the Indianapolis no luck Colts.
Yeah, I like that. I saw what you did there. I like it.
You see what I did?
I like it. Me and C. Moody love puns.
Yeah.
No luck Colts. I like it. But 10 sacks in this game.
10 sacks?
For the Jaguars.
Wow.
My boy Brissett stayed on the turf most of the game. I know he's a New England protege, but 33 total sacks on the season. Number 1 defense in terms of sacks are the Jaguars. They average about 4.7 sacks a game.
goodness.
And this used to be a team people used to just run all over.
Exactly.
We're playing the Jaguars this week. Yeah, that's a win.
Right.
Yeah. But they're gaining my respect, at least. What do you think?
Definitely. And for me, in recent weeks, when they had that breakout game in London was the first time, I really started noticing it. As much as I've been looking at the offensive side, this defense is really the surprise takeaway from this Jaguars. Like you say, Saxonville, I didn't even know they were averaging, like you said, over 4 sacks a game. So it's an incredible performance from their defense. So I really like what they're becoming, even though they are 4-3. When they win, it's convincing.
It's convincing. Yeah. They do it. I mean, I know Fournette had the breakout game, and I know he's injured, but TJ Yeldon had a breakout game. You have some...
Yeah, TJ Yeldon, definitely. He went 9 carries for 122 yards, 1 touchdown, that touchdown being on a 58-yard run. Wow. So, for Blake Bortles, we also have him having a great game, 18 for 26, 330 yards with 1 touchdown. Get this, for total yards, Jacksonville had 518 yards total. And on the other side, total yards, you have 232. And like you said, Jacoby Brissett, he racked up the 200.
Wow, so he pretty much was playing the game by himself.
Exactly. Frank Gore hit the 34 yards. So with Jacoby's 200 passing and Frank Gore's 34, that's the entire game.
And he got sacked 10 times. I mean, he just pretty much, it was just like no one else showed up to the game but them. So now the Colts are 2-5. I'm not hearing anything as when Luck is supposed to come back, but at this point, is it even worth him coming back? Yeah,
I don't know, man. Honestly, for me, looking at where they're at 2-5, he's 7 games in, 9 games left. To have a stretch for them to get 9 games to be 11-5 is definitely would be hard for Indianapolis all around. Considering that the offense might be the least of their worries as what they need to work on. If it was me, I do feel like Andrew Luck, his drive and how passionate he is at quarterback, he's going to come back. But
yeah, he will.
I don't see a reason to push him in right now.
But would there be any? There's not going to be a season to salvage by the time he gets back, unless we're just putting him back in the flow to get him back into the flow of things, and we're just not saying they're going to tank the season, but just use it as a stepping stone into next year.
Right, and in my eyes, I would use it as to just continue to build off of Jacoby, so that way when Andrew Luck comes in, God forbid he goes down again, we have a more comfortable backup quarterback than somebody who's just thrown into live NFL action. So he plays this whole season out. Of course, Andrew's going to start, next year when he does get healthy. But I would be more comfortable knowing, for me, I would feel like I have a 1-2 quarterback punch now. So
I like it. But the Jaguars get the win.
Yeah.
27-0, Saxonville,
man.
Moving on.
The defensive front of the league. That's amazing.
Yeah, 4.7 sacks a game. I had to relook. I said, what?
Right.
Jacksonville. Man, wait a minute. Y'all sure this ain't a misprint?
Exactly.
But Colts 2-5, Jacksonville 4-3.
I'm about to say, if I can get into the next game.
Go ahead.
A game I took a chance on and said maybe this would be an upset, but I'm glad looking at my Super Bowl predictions, I'm glad I took this loss. But Dallas Cowboys went into San Francisco to dominate over the 49ers 40-10. That was just 40-10. That's
flawless.
I mean, we flawless victory, right? Man, 219 total yards from scrimmage for Ezekiel Elliott. 147 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. And him having a touchdown and receiving for 72 yards. Great game for Ezekiel and the offense of Dallas, man. Dak Prescott also getting 3 touchdowns and 234 yards, man. I mean, what is there to say? What anything you got to say?
Anything, if anything, in the Niners' defense. I mean, they have lost 5 games by a total of 3 points or less. So if some of those other games go the other way, that we could be sitting at a 2-5, maybe a 3-4. But they're 0-7.
Yeah.
I mean, Kyle Shanahan is. I mean, he's an excellent coach. I mean, it's in his genes. I know eventually. I mean, he's gonna do whatever he can to get these guys in the win column.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is probably one of the better 0-7 teams you'll ever face. You know, given the fact of sometimes the record doesn't always, you know, indicate the team and how they're going to play. So that's why on any given Sunday, anything can happen. But I mean, it's kind of unfortunate that they're 0-7. They lost a lot of close games where they just didn't finish games, and then there was no excuse in this one. Dallas was just a better team.
Yeah.
Zeke is still playing. With all the controversy through what's going on with him, whether he's going to play or is he going to be suspended.
Right.
Dallas is still finding ways to win games. They're 500 right now. I mean, I know they, you know, want to be better, but they're just keeping pace right now.
Yeah.
And hopefully they can just continue to get more momentum as the weeks goes on. And if Zeke is able to finish out the season, they can finally put that distraction behind him and just get back to football and just focusing on that. And then trying to build momentum to try to compete in the NFC East.
And you know what? The only thing that worries me about this constant back and forth battle with Ezekiel, I feel like, you know, it's gonna come back if they can't totally shut it down in favor of Ezekiel. They're gonna find the worst time to bite the Cowboys with this whole controversy, with this whole situation, legal situation. And it'd be in the time that maybe they continue to rally into the playoffs, and if they haven't done it yet, then they decide to really enforce this suspension. If, like I said, if they can't find some way to settle this beforehand, and they just let it linger throughout the season. And I hope it doesn't come to that, because it'll be so detrimental to lose that performer in Ezekiel in a time as, like, if they make it to playoffs or if they're right there at the wild card bubble. So, you know, I hope they can settle it. However, if he has to take the suspension, go ahead and let him go through it now. Or if they can't appeal it, make sure this appeal is final. Like, you know, not just a hold off, because I would hate for it to take him out at a detrimental time if the Cowboys can rally onto the positive side of the 500, which I feel like they're more than capable of doing for the rest of the season. So, the next game, I'll get into it. Both of us were pretty much sure on this one. Ben Roethlisberger is just starting to rally back after this whole 5 interception loss game, thinking he didn't have it anymore. Rallying to score 29 on the Cincinnati Bengals, 29-14. Ben Roethlisberger had a good game, 14-24, 224 yards, 2 touchdowns. Le'Veon Bell pulled 134 yards and 35 carries. And Antonio Brown, with 4 receptions, had 65 yards and 1 touchdown.
That's huge.
On the other side of the ball, Dalton, he did have 140 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, but 2 interceptions. And A.J. Green was silenced to 3 receptions for 41 yards.
Yeah, I'm still calling for Marvin Lewis's head. He's got to get out of Cincy, man.
Yeah, man.
I mean, I just think if this year ends anything less of a playoff appearance or a playoff win, he's got to go.
Yeah.
But I mean, Pittsburgh, nice solid performance here by their triple Bs, and I'm not talking about the baller brand.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, Bell, Big Ben, and Brown.
And we also have another B. You have to have one more B. Chris Boswell.
The
kicker.
I thought you were talking about Martavis Bryant, who's kind of
that's a different situation. But
yeah,
Chris Boswell scored the next 15 points after 7 minutes into the second quarter. So the rest of the game was all his kicking. And
yeah,
he ended up scoring
coming through.
Another situation where, like you said, the kicker, his one job is just as important as anything else.
Yeah,
man.
and if to have a consistent kicker, man, that's that extra bit of help that you might need.
Right.
Because without when the offense can't finish drives.
Exactly.
To get those points. Kicks add up. I know you'd rather have touchdowns over field goals, but sometimes that could be the margin of victory for you. Like you said in the other game, the kicker had what was it? You said that's
6 field goals.
6 field goals. I mean,
18 points.
Right there. That's 18 points. Another team just scored 16. So
exactly. And without his kicking up here, I mean, you take away those 15 points, it's a tie game.
Yeah. So it goes to show you kickers are important. They are football players.
Yeah, exactly.
People who don't believe that they are.
Yeah, they definitely matter.
They matter. Kickers matter. Kickers
lives matter. There you go. And for total yards, man, the Bengals were held to 179 total yards. While on the other side, the Steelers popped up 420 total yards.
And I'm still not quite sold on the Steelers right now. They've been kind of topsy-turvy. They've been Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like one week they look horrible, next week they look awesome, one week they look mediocre. So it's just kind of the many faces of the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. So I'm ready to kind of see more consistency. But despite all the inconsistencies, to be sitting at 5-2,
exactly,
is still pretty good place to be. I mean, you've already beaten the Chiefs, so really right now you got 3, 5-2 teams right now in the AFC. As it stands with the Chiefs and the Steelers, and then as we get further down the line, we learn that the Patriots are there as well. I think it's going to be between those 3 teams trying to duke it out to see who's going to be that number 1 seed and get that home field as the playoff picture pursues for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and like we were saying about Martavis Bryant, I found out it's been reported that the Steelers plan to bench him this Sunday for his social media outlash about, complaining about him not getting the ball and even wanting to be traded. So, and even in doing so, he just pretty much just says, whatever happens, he's going to play. If he doesn't get traded, he'll just play hard for the Steelers. So, but, we're seeing a lot from the Steelers with social media. I think last year we had Antonio Brown with recording live back, in the locker room.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just, I guess, just young guys, man. Young guys and this whole attention to social media,
Yeah.
That's pretty much the public platform.
That's where they go to vent.
Right.
And
I mean, honestly, you just got to find a better place to do it. I mean, that's what we've allowed social media to be. And we see that when you're in a professional field like the NFL, I mean, of course, you're making a statement, but it's going to hurt you, if you're not finding some kind of leadway with your actual team first.
Yep. Talk to them first.
Exactly. Because that's what Ben said. He was like, come to me first, and because I'm the one who throws the ball. If you can talk to me, then we can figure out a way.
But he ain't in a good headspace right now because he still don't think that he has it, so he might not be the person to go to talk to. So, and Mike Tomlin's a straightforward coach, so I really believe if you bring the concern to the table, Mike Tomlin's that razor edge type coach, but he's gonna challenge him like, okay, you want more, passes, or you want the offense to kind of run through you too. So at the end of the day,
how you gonna play to get it?
Yeah, are you gonna be willing to put in the work to be in that situation?
Exactly.
So next game I have is the one I missed on. I thought the Giants would rally and get on a little win streak here, but looks like 1 week wonders for them. They lose it to the Seahawks 24-7. The Giants now fall to 1-6?
1-6
on the season. In the game, Eli Manning was 19 for 39, 134 yards. Did throw a touchdown pass, which was to Evan Ingram, who had 6 catches, 60 yards for a touchdown, a tight end for the Giants. I really like this kid. He's growing on me.
Yeah.
Each week he's being a more important factor of their offense. And then Russell Wilson had a breakout day. Finally, they put together a solid offensive day from him. 27 of 39, 334 yards, 3 touchdown passes in the game. Doug Baldwin, number 1 wideout for him, 9 receptions, 92 yards, and a touchdown. And the Seahawks win it by 17. They're 4-2 on the season right now. So what do you think?
This is another team that, even though they're 4-2, I'm not confident in that. I'm not confident in their performance because they've had their struggles. Even in their wins, they've had struggles and inconsistencies on different sides of the ball. But as far as this game is concerned, the Giants struck first with that, like I said, the pass touchdown to Evan Ingram. And after that, it was completely all Seahawks. I mean, scoring all their points from that point forward, rallying their 21 points the entire second half, a shutout. So it was just a good performance for them. I mean, it's really bad to see the Giants without his original key, receivers, his key targets for Eli, him making do, using, like you said, utilizing Evan Ingram, who's really being maybe his primary target right now. But they just don't have it. I mean, on both sides of the ball, they're not really executing at all. And the Giants are starting to fall into that vat of obscurity, considering that, we've seen them have their two Super Bowls not too long ago. Who did they beat during the Super Bowls?
I don't remember, man.
You don't remember? I thought it was a New England something.
All I remember is the last two that we won.
Oh, okay.
2 out of the last 3 years.
I got you.
No.
Okay.
I don't remember. I have to look that up later.
But yeah, man, it's bad. It's really bad for the Giants right now. And like I said, a win is a win. They're starting to look better, Seahawks, but they need some more weeks as far as for me to see how complete they really are.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I agree. Next game I have is the Chargers and the Broncos. Don't look now, but here come the Chargers.
Here come the Chargers,
After
man.
an 0-4 start, 3 straight wins for old Phillip Rivers.
Finally, man.
And the Chargers. Phillip, 15 out of 26 in the game, 183 yards, 2 touchdown passes in the game. Trevor Siemian just had a rough day. That entire Denver offense had a rough day. Siemian was 25 for 35, 207, and an interception. I think C.J. Anderson was held to like 40-something yards. 44 yards in the game. I mean, subpar effort by his standards. Denver, when I think of the Broncos, through all the history of the Denver Broncos, ever since I became a fan of the NFL, I've always remembered them having solid running backs. Whether it be Terrell Davis or now with C.J. Anderson, or even when Clinton Portis was there a few years back, Sean Moreno, whoever it was, they always had, solid running backs throughout their history. And then, Anderson just was held to just a very rough day. I'm just surprised at the Chargers right now. I mean, but I'm not, because it's Phillip. Phillip has a lot of fire in him, and he's gonna make his team fight, and they're gonna grind it out. I know in the first couple of weeks of the season, they lost a couple of close ones, but I mean, that's why you play. I mean, you continue to play. In football, you have to have short-term memory. You have to just put the previous week behind you, just try to be better, and just move forward and get ready for that next opportunity to try to win.
Definitely, man. I love Phillip Rivers, man. I really, for me, I expect this. I expect this performance, and I'm glad they're starting to finally convert this into wins. Like you said, they've been having close losses. It's not like they've been, one of those teams that should be, that's far down as they are. But for me, the ultimate goal for him has to be to get into the playoffs this year. And so if they can continue to rally, like I said, they had a good performance. Also, Travis Benjamin, he started the whole game off with a 65-yard punt return, as well as his 45-yard pass touchdown at the end. But I'm really just hoping that for Phillip Rivers, somebody who his entire career has been a very good quarterback, especially during the season, can break that hump and not only continue to rally their team into the win columns, but break into the playoffs this year.
It's going to be rough over there in that AFC West, though.
I mean, definitely.
Oakland looks like they're trying to turn it around. San Diego, I keep saying San Diego. LA Chargers trying to turn it around. I wouldn't count Denver out just yet. And then you got the Chiefs over there, too. So, I mean, if the Chargers are going to get in, it's going to have to be a wild card.
Yeah.
And this division could very well send 3 teams to the playoffs. The division winner and 2 wild card teams. But, I mean, a lot has to happen down the stretch of the season.
Right.
And a lot of these teams are going to have to play each other again. And that could make or break the chances of going or potentially winning the division. They're only 2 games back. Everybody in that division underneath the Chiefs, who are 5-2, you got the Chargers at 3-4, Raiders at 3-4, and then Broncos at 3-3 now. So it's going to be a tight race down the stretch in that AFC West division. But good for the Chargers that they've rallied off 3 wins in a row.
Definitely.
Next game for me. Sunday Night Football. The New England Patriots versus the Atlanta Falcons. A rematch of Super Bowl 51 in Foxborough. And my Patriots won it.
To say the least.
23-7. This game wasn't as entertaining as the Super Bowl was, but They took care of business. Brady, 21 of 29, 249 yards, 2 touchdown passes in the game. Matt Ryan, 23 for 33, 233 yards, did have a touchdown pass in the game to Julio Jones, 9 receptions, 99 yards, and a touchdown in garbage time. Brandon Cooks had a pretty nice night as well, 4 receptions, 65 yards. And a touchdown reception. Now, they ruled it as a touchdown reception, but it was kind of like one of those trick plays. Patriots line up in the shotgun. He comes across in motion, and Brady just kind of tosses the ball up. He catches it and follows Gronkowski into the end zone for the block. And he has his hand on Gronkowski's back, like a handful of jersey, just following Gronk all the way into the end zone. Like, you stand in front of me, and I'm just going to guide you where I need to go and push forward to get the touchdown. I thought that was a very funny play when I saw that.
Right.
And then the defense looked surprisingly good against a great offensive team like Atlanta. I know Atlanta's had their struggles over the past several weeks, falling from grace to 3-3. They look good for the first time. And for the first time this season, my Patriots hold a quarterback under 300 yards passing. You gotta appreciate the small victories. The way we looked the first couple of weeks, we were just giving up huge chunks of yardage and points. And it just kind of looks like the defense could this just be turning the corner. Now, what really got me in this game was just that like in the second half, it got really foggy, where you couldn't even really see.
Really?
Yeah, in the second half of that game, it was foggy. It was Foxborough instead of Foxborough.
Foxborough?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I like that.
I didn't come up with that. I saw that. So I can't take credit for it, but I'm going to plug it.
At least you're honest.
Yeah, I'm being honest with that. I can come up with some pretty good stuff, but I didn't come up with that.
Right.
But Foxborough was what it was, and it just made it worse for Atlanta. It's like they just couldn't get anything going. They went for it a couple times on 4th down in bad field position and didn't get it. It was just a bad performance overall for the Falcons. And Matt Ryan in his career still never beaten the Patriots in a one-on-one contest versus Tom Brady. So Patriots lead the AFC East. Atlanta falls again. Super Bowl 51 rematch really didn't live up to the hype.
Nah.
And the Patriots take it. They're 5-2 on the season. They've won 3 in a row now after a 2-2 start.
I think so.
So they are on a roll right now. So we'll see if that continues. I mean, again, we do have 3 teams at 5-2 in the AFC right now, and New England's right there. We're still having to play Pittsburgh later on in the season. So we'll see how that 3-team carousel looks as we know, Kansas City beat New England, but Pittsburgh beat Kansas City. So when we see New England and Pittsburgh on the field together, we'll see how that, goes when they play one another.
Definitely.
Anything you want to kind of add to the game?
Nah, I mean, that's everything. Another team I'm really disappointed in the Atlanta Falcons.
You expect this with them, though. I expect this with them.
Ever since they got paid off, lost that very close Super Bowl to the New England
What's
Patriots.
the next game we got? What's the next game we need to talk about? I don't have time. You need to go get some Kleenex and sit it right here. She want to cry.
No, man, no. It's fine.
You sure?
It's fine, man. It was a great win for the Patriots as they continue.
Talking about the Super Bowl win or this win? Both of them were great, but the Super Bowl win was
just
greater
this
than
one.
this one.
The Super Bowl
win was greater. The greatest win of all time in all of professional sports.
Yeah, I mean, hey, Vince McMahon did a great job on scripting that.
Yeah, we were Roman Reigns that night.
Oh, definitely. Royal Rumble. But the last game we have is Monday Night Football. Washington Redskins going into Philly to take on the Eagles. The Eagles prevailing 34-24. Carson Wentz. It was a good shootout between the two quarterbacks. On the Eagles side, we have Wentz hitting 4 touchdowns, even though he had 1 interception, for 268 yards. For the Redskins, Cousins having 303 yards with 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. But the big thing I got from this is show the efficiency of Carson Wentz, because he got his 4 touchdowns in 17 completions out of 25 total pass attempts. But for Kirk Cousins, for him to get his 3 touchdowns and 300 yards, he had 30 completions in 40 attempts. So, I mean, of course, on that side of the ball, you have them launching it, as many times as possible. Mm-hmm. But for Carson Wentz, he still got more touchdowns in pretty much almost half of the amount of attempts or completions. Mm-hmm. So that's a great. And then Carson Wentz also had 63 rushing yards and 8 carries. So I mean that showed a little bit of legs for Carson Wentz. I didn't see that.
It was one of those plays like he was. It was like a lot. Like looked like he was sacked, and a big bunch of people, a big pile of people, all piled up, and he just came out
shot through the middle,
like out of nowhere. And it was like, where did he come from? Like, how did he get out of that? So this kid is special. I do it. I like Kirk Cousins too. He can put up the numbers.
Yeah, I like both of these.
A lot of times it just doesn't translate into wins for him, but I mean he's gonna play to the end.
Oh, definitely.
And the Redskins continue to franchise tag him, so eventually they're going to have to give him that big payday.
Yeah.
But they continue to do that to kind of want to see more, I guess, out of a body of work for him to see exactly. He's been the guy since RG3, so just pay the man already.
Right.
I mean,
he's definitely
he's doing some good things. He may not, always perform at a high level, but you know what you're going to get out of him.
Definitely. You're going to get the passion. You're going to get some play. Like you said, it may not be enough on certain ends, but Kirk Cousins is always going to do good quality quarterbacking,
Mm-hmm. So, and for the Eagles right now, league best 6-1 right now. And like I said earlier, Carson Wentz, very much in the conversation for league MVP. Leading the league in touchdown passes right now at 17. Yeah. So the Eagles are surprisingly good at 6-1, best record in the league. After Kansas City's dropped 2 in a row, their only loss of the season is to Kansas City. So Philly's looking like they're going to hold things down in the NFC. And that's gonna. You had any more you want to add to the game?
No, that's it for me.
So that's gonna wrap it up for NFL Week 7.
You got to give our top 5s.
Yeah. Top 5. Coming up. For me, I'll go ahead and jump into it. My top 5 this week.
You want me to say your olds?
Yeah, go ahead and tell them what my last week's top 5
All right,
was.
so for D. Moody, last week's top 5, counting down, we have at number 5, New Orleans Saints, tied with Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 4, we have his special New England Patriots. Number 3, we have Carolina Panthers. At number 2, we have the Kansas City Chiefs. And at number 1, Philadelphia Eagles. So now what goes on to this week?
So it's going to be much of the same. We do have another tie. It's a new
Another
entry.
tie.
For the
Okay.
first time this season, in my top 5, a tie at number 5. Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, we in there.
By the very hairs of your chinny chin, you guys are in there. It's just barely, because I want to put y'all at 6, but I'll give you the respect.
Thank you.
You're looking pretty decent.
Thank you, man.
That's
that's all we want. That's all we want is the
Looking pretty
respect.
decent, and you're only one game back of the best record in the conference.
Look at that. I'm
So,
telling you, man.
I mean,
Can't go wrong with LA.
LA's looking good, man. They're also tied with another team that's at 5-2, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Respect.
So I got the Steelers and the Rams tied at 5. Number 4, moving up a spot from last week, the Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints
Okay.
at 4-2.
I like that.
The defense has been playing very well for them, surprisingly well over the last 3 weeks or so. The running game is looking really good for them. And the Saints look like they're going to be in contention in the NFC if things keep going the way that it has been for them.
Okay.
Number 3 on this week, moving up one spot from last week,
Already know.
my New England Patriots.
Yep.
At 5-2
Respect that.
on the season. They hit some rough patches early, lost some close games, won some close ones, and then just pretty much handed it to Atlanta this past week. Brady's still looking really good. Hopefully the defense can continue to play strong as they have over the past couple weeks. So long as Brady and Belichick is there, they're going to be there. You're going to have to go through the killer bees if you want to come out of the AFC.
Yeah.
Number 2. Same spot as they were last week.
Okay.
Kansas City
Gotcha.
Chiefs. Even though they lose to the Raiders, I don't think it's panic time for the Chiefs. I know they've played 2 games in the course of 4 days, so give them a break here. And then that game, they still could have very much won that game at the end versus the Raiders, so they could have easily been sitting here at 6-1. But they did lose it. Hopefully this doesn't become a reoccurring thing for them, that they go on this losing streak. Hopefully they can find a way to get back in the win column. I like what Alex Smith is doing. He's one of the top MVP candidates right now. He's playing really well. I like what Tyreek Hill and company brings to the table. And I just like what the Chiefs are doing. I still think they're going to be possible AFC Championship game contenders, if they can get through Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh has kind of been that thorn in the side for them. As we remember, Pittsburgh eliminated them from the playoffs last year. And then the year before that, the Patriots beat them in the divisional round. So they've yet to make it to an AFC Championship game under Andy Reid. This could very well be the season that happens if they can keep everything together.
Definitely.
Number 1 for me. Second straight week.
Yeah.
Fly like an eagle to the sea. The Eagles are number 1. And respectfully,
Gotta be.
they have to be.
Yeah.
They have the best record. Arguably, their quarterback is playing the best football right now. He's leading the team. He's a man of faith. He is leading this team, and each week seems like he's getting better by the week.
Definitely.
I like what their defense is doing. I just love the energy right now around the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think they are the best team in football right now. And if you want to argue that, hey, Kansas City beat them, yeah, they did. But Bill Parcells always says, you are what your record says you are.
That's the
So you're
truth.
6-1. Kansas City's 5-2. And that's just the way it is right now for me. That's how my top 5 looks. as of this week. Not much of a big change from last week other than the LA Rams in there. We noticed Carolina is no longer there since they've had a little tumble down over the last few weeks.
Yeah.
I still think Carolina's dangerous. Regardless how bad Cam is playing, we always know he has that potential to have that breakout big game. Just ask the Patriots. They saw it from him a few weeks back. Matter of fact, that's the last time they won a game when they beat New England. So
right.
Hopefully they can right the ship there. And there's some other teams kind of lingering in my top 10. Possibly Buffalo at 4-2. Kind of a scary looking team. Jacksonville, what they're able to bring to the table too. And then you got Miami sitting there at 4-2 as well. So, and then Seattle there as well, even though I still need to see more from them. So we'll let C. Moody reveal to you who his top 5 is.
All right. Now, even though I know we're doing a top 5, I can honestly say I have an entire top 10 written out, because for most I can pretty much kind of guesstimate who I wanted in my top 10, but have my top 5 solidified. But this week, as he just finished, I literally was able to complete an entire top 10. But I'm getting into my top 5.
On me to do mine, and then you try to make yours to.
No, I really don't. I hear yours, but then I have to look back, because now I'm trying to take into account, because I want to account like this week's performance alone, but then I'm trying to backtrack and be like, well, what's their performance? Who's their look? Because I was just now looking back to like the Vikings. I was like, well, they're 4-2 right now, I think, but who did they win, or how did they lose?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, gotcha.
So that's what I was kind of doing. Now, I will say in the past weeks, I listened to yours, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I should change mine. But this is my top 5. Now, last week, my top 5, the counting down, was a tie. Well, no. Let's see. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, had to make sure. My number 5 was the Houston Texans. I liked the grit of them. And just let me finish.
I didn't even say that.
At number 4. Number 4 was a tie between the New England Patriots and Carolina Panthers. Number 3 was my LA Rams. Number 2 was the Philly Eagles. And number 1, I kept the Kansas City Chiefs. But this week, it is a little bit different. Starting at number 5, I have a tie as well. New Orleans Saints.
Okay.
And Pittsburgh Steelers.
I like it. You kind of went the route I went last week.
Yeah, because I actually was going Steelers with you at 5, and then I like you said, the come up of Drew Brees. Mm-hmm. So I will say you persuaded me to add them in last minute. I will give you that.
Okay.
So at number 4, remaining at number 4, but what dropping the other part of the tie is the New England Patriots. Your New England Patriots at number 4.
Yeah, okay. I like that. You are finally putting together logical top 5.
Oh yeah,
I like it. This is really working out for you.
So, at number 3. I don't know how logically you might like me. LA Rams at number 3.
That's usually what happens. As soon as you give somebody credit, they turn around and make you wish you never said what you said.
Come on now, can we not say that they're quality?
The third best
5 and 2. They're quality and consider
5, 6, 7 range maybe, but not the third best team in the league.
Wow, I think they. Even though
I think you
Cardinals
put them on a field with Philly wins. You put them on a field with Kansas City wins. You put them on a field with New England wins.
Oh.
Now, I think they can beat the Saints. And they might can steal one from the Steelers, too. I don't know. It could, depending on how it goes. But the only one in my top 5 I think they can beat is potentially the Saints.
Time will tell.
5.
Yeah, thank you. Time will tell. We love to prove people. So, number 2, dropping down is the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, I wonder why.
Because they suck right now. It's like they've lost, even though this was a very close game, and because of that call, could have went either way. But I mean, they lost. They are now 5-2 instead of the possible 6-1. So you have to give it to the actual 6-1, which is now my number one, Philly Eagles.
Okay,
so that's my top five.
I like it, man. Other than the Rams being high, I thought if anything I would change about your top five, you could have did it identical to what I did. Maybe put it a tie. Maybe put them at a tie at 4 or put them at a tie at 5. I don't think they're the third best team, in the league right now. That's kind of a stretch to say that, given the fact of how well Philly's playing, how well KC's playing.
Given the fact of
the
how
Saints are on the come up.
Todd Gurley's playing.
Tom Brady is still
playing.
Tom Brady the GOAT.
The special teams of the Rams is playing.
Overall, I love the energy of them about them is infectious. I love it. They are a top 10 NFL team. And I will give them that. Borderline 5.
I appreciate.
That's why I put them right there.
I appreciate your
right on the
disrespectful
cusp.
enthusiasm.
I respect them. They're good, but I just don't think they're the third best team in the league right now.
And now, as far as my top 10 now, I got Vikings. I actually wanted to put the Vikings in a tie for 5, but I got them at my 6. I mean, you can say what you want. They haven't had any real major key wins, but they are 5-2.
Yeah, your record. As I just made the argument, you are what your record says you are. They're top. I would give them a top 10, maybe an 8 or a 9, maybe.
I got them at 6. At my 7, I have the Bills at 7. I like how the Bills are doing. Like I said earlier, at 8, I have Seahawks. Like I said, they are winning, but it's not convincing enough for me to push them any higher. Then I dropped the Panthers all the way down to 9 this week, just because
maybe can respect that.
Their performance is just really coming down a lot.
9 at the lowest. Yeah.
And then at 10, I have the Dolphins, just because they're 4-2. Like you said, you are what your record says.
What about Buffalo?
They're at number 7. That's
what I said. Okay, I was gonna say Buffalo's 4-2 out there. You got a little handful of 4-2 teams out there. So that rounds out our top 5s. It also rounds out our picks where we were right and wrong. For the week, C. Moody took the week.
Yes, sir. 11-4,
right?
11-4.
And I was 9-6. So he's got a 4-game lead over me right now. A lot still can happen. I'm just waiting. I thought this would be the week that I would take him, but it's still.
It's going to be that week. We have to have a week where we just don't agree on anything.
You agree with me a lot.
Yeah, because we really this week we only had like maybe 4 games total that we had separate ideas on. I think 4, maybe 5, if I can recall. So we have to, like you said, we have to find a week where we really just went to. It was only 4 games that we disagreed on. So once we have a game where at least 6 or 8 games we disagree on, that'll make a difference. That'll either stretch it out or you take the lead.
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes later in the podcast. Due to tonight not being Thursday, it's actually Wednesday night here, Eastern Standard Time. We are going to do our NFL picks to end the podcast as versus last week where we kind of put it in at the beginning because we were racing against the clock because we didn't want the game to get underway and us not to have the picks in. So we're going to come back to the NFL later in the podcast to end it with our NFL Week 8 picks. But when we come back from a little break, we're going to get into college football, take a look at some of the big matchups that took place last week, reveal to you the new top 10 and some of the big matchups coming up in college football, and the Heisman hopefuls. You're listening to Sports Moods, 2 Moodies,
1 Duty
Sports.
We'll be right back. What is going on, guys? We are back. Sports Moods. 2 Moodies.
1 duty.
Sports. Now, before we dive into recapping last week in college football, I want to give you an update because as of right now, Wednesday night, World Series Game 2 is underway as we speak. And for right now, it's the bottom of the 4th. The Astros are leading 1-0. The Houston Astros, of course, against the LA Dodgers. It's 0 outs at the moment. The only score coming from Brigham, I think I said his last name right, singling to center, which got Reddick to score.
Okay.
That's where we get our one. So that's the RBI for Bregman.
Yeah, Houston trying to even up that series after the Game 1 loss last night. Clayton Kershaw put together a huge performance last night to help the Dodgers win the first game of the World Series.
Also going on, we have a lot going on in the NBA right now. But as of right now, Wednesday night, we have the Memphis Grizzlies taking on the Dallas Mavericks. And with just over 5 minutes left in the second half, the Mavericks are up 42-34. We have the Cavaliers taking on the Nets, and they're down 81-90 with 9 minutes in the fourth quarter. And right now on ESPN, we have the San Antonio Spurs 3 points ahead of the Miami Heat, 58-55 with 9 minutes in the third quarter. We have the Indiana Pacers down 10 to the Oklahoma City Thunder, 61-51. So I guess this might be the first returning game for Paul George now. 9 minutes, just under 10 minutes left in the third quarter. Some matches that has already taken place, that is finished now. The Charlotte Hornets beat the Denver Nuggets 110-93. Detroit Pistons have taken over Minnesota Timberwolves, I think. Yeah, Minnesota. Had to make sure I had the right city. 122-101. Detroit Pistons win that. Houston Rockets just beat the 76ers 105-104. And later on tonight, we have 3 more games. We have the Utah Jazz taking on the Phoenix Suns, which has a very disappointing season starting off right now. John Wall and the Washington Wizards are looking to face Lonzo Ball.
I'm going to say LeVar.
Yeah, I'll say LeVar is not there, but Lonzo Ball and the LA Lakers. The Wizards are 3-0 as of right now. And then later on tonight as well, we have the Toronto Raptors going to Golden State to take on the Warriors. That's right. What's going on right now. Update in sports.
All right, now we're going to dive right into it. Let's go ahead and get into recapping the college football action from last week. Go ahead and get into it. A big matchup. Number 2, Penn State in prime time taking on the Michigan Wolverines. A Big Ten showdown between the Nittany Lions and the Michigan Wolverines. McSorley, the quarterback for the Penn State, went 17 out of 26, 282 yards, did throw a touchdown and an interception in the game. He did carry the ball 11 times for 76 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns in the game. So McSorley, going into this game, obviously we know Saquon Barkley is going to be the main attraction, but McSorley really had a big showing in this game as well. And speaking of Saquon Barkley, he did go 15 carries for 108 yards. For 2 touchdowns. Also had 3 receptions in the game for 53 yards. So it was just pretty much McSorley and Barkley doing the business offensively for Penn State, where the Michigan defense just really didn't have an answer for these guys. They broke the game open. For Michigan, their quarterback, O'Korn, 16 of 28, 166 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in the game. So he really didn't do anything to really hurt him as much, but he didn't really help him as much either versus Penn State. Penn State gets the win 42-13. This was a Penn statement game. You like that?
That.
You like that?
That was
Penn
perfect.
Statement game. And the reason why is because, Penn State has a lot to show. This has been one of the red-hot teams since last year, and just carrying over into this season as well. The lethal rushing attack, again, was just no answer. Michigan and Jim Harbaugh just did not have an answer for this. And they could pose problems if they face Bama in the playoff. With the struggles, Bama we know can struggle with running quarterbacks, and plus a running back with the caliber of Saquon Barkley. That's going to give the Bama defense, I think, some issues, to kind of go up against if we want to foresee what could be in the future. Right. If Penn State continue to play the way that they play, they can beat you in so many different ways in running and throwing the football. When you got a quarterback who can run, a quarterback who can throw, a running back who can catch, a running back who can run, that's just a dual threat both ways you look at it from two of your most important positions on offense.
Definitely.
So right now, Michigan is 0-3 in their last 3 primetime games, and that pretty much ends it for them as far as their playoff hopes. That's over for them. So there's no way that Michigan's going to the national championship game. There's no way that they're going to be in that college football playoff now. So that dream is over if you're a Wolverines fan. And Penn State stays undefeated, and they got another tough test coming up this week versus Ohio State. So 1 week Michigan, very next week, like I said, another statement game coming up for Penn State this week, but they remain undefeated after huge performances by McSorley and Saquon Barkley, the potential Heisman Trophy winner, who has my vote as of right now to be the Heisman. If I was eligible to vote, he would definitely have mine.
Right.
Another game on which I thought this game coming up would be a more competitive game than what we saw. USC Trojans number 21 on the road versus the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in South Bend, Indiana. Notre Dame won this one pretty handily, and it was pretty much rough from the very start of the game for the Trojans. Their first snap of the game was a fumble by Sam Darnold. It was a kind of a bad snap that resulted into a fumble. And from there, it was pretty much all she wrote. Wimbush, the quarterback for the Fighting Irish, was 9 of 19. He threw the ball for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then he ran the ball 14 times for 106 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he accounted for 4 touchdowns in the game.
Wow.
2 rushing and 2 passing, and then he rushed for over 100 yards as well. And then their running back, Adams, carried the ball 19 times for 191 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. So a total of 5 rushing touchdowns in the game for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Their offense was just explosive the entire game. USC their defense just did not have an answer for it. And Notre Dame is back on the comeback trail. Their only loss of the season is to Georgia, and we see how well Georgia's playing right now, so it makes it look like a legit loss. Not saying a legit loss, but it's not as bad as a loss as it could have been because we didn't. I didn't think Georgia would be successful, but I didn't imagine that Georgia would be
as dominant
as they are right now. I thought it would take a couple years for Kirby Smart to really get things going there, but they're looking like they're in the thick of things right now. So that one loss on Notre Dame's record is working more for them than it is against them.
Definitely.
And then speaking of Sam Darnold, 20 of 28, 229 yards, 2 touchdowns, and
an interception.
Yeah, this year has just been a rough year with him.
It's really bad.
Interception in the game, a fumble in the game. He's averaging. He finds ways to turn it over. He does. He's a great talent. Don't get me wrong. Sam Darnold can throw with the best of them, and I think he's going to be a top prospect regardless of how his season finishes with the Trojans. He has a very good win-loss ratio as a quarterback. I want to say he's 15-3 as a starter for the Trojans. So he's very successful. Yeah. It's just the fact that this year's been kind of a more of a rough year for him in terms of his handle on the football. Burnett had 8 receptions in the game for 113 yards and a touchdown. And then Mitchell Jr. had 7 receptions for 71 yards and a touchdown in the game for the Trojans. But they lose by 35 points to Notre Dame. And in the last 5 meetings, the home team has always won this matchup, and that streak continues. So USC is definitely fallen from grace, and their playoff hopes are over as well. And if you recall back to the beginning of the season, I had them in my college football playoff. So I was definitely wrong about Trojans. Right, given the way they ended last season, winning that incredible Rose Bowl game over Penn State, they didn't live up to it this season. So USC's probably going to be outside of the top 25 after this loss, and they already have 2 losses on the season, and it is very extremely hard for a 2-loss team to make the playoff.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Before we in this game, I was looking at. Can you say this name? The first touchdown in this game was from Brandon Wimbush and a 26-yard pass to Equanimous St. Brown. That was his first name. That's a very unique name I've never seen. As many.
Equanimous.
I'm gonna spell it for you. EQUANIMEOUS. Equanimous.
I'm just gonna say Nimius.
So that caught me as I was looking at the highlights.
Yo,
What's up,
EQ?
Emus. But go ahead to the.
But yeah, man, that is never heard of that one before.
Right.
Number 11, Oklahoma State. As I figured this would be kind of a trap game for them versus the Texas Longhorns. Now we know Texas has been that kind of trap game for a lot of teams this year, nearly upsetting the Trojans earlier this year. Sam Darnold and company, they played them tough. Remember, they built up the hype of the rematch of the Trojans versus the Longhorns in their championship game with Vince Young and Matt Leinart and them. So Texas hung tough with USC. They hung tough with Oklahoma just last week, matter of fact, in the Red River rivalry. Yeah. So Texas is not a pushover team. And they're going up against Oklahoma State. Coming into this game, Oklahoma State averaged 48.5 points a game.
Oh,
over 600 total yards every game this season.
That didn't happen today.
That really didn't happen this week. Texas defense, this was really a defensive game. Mason Rudolph, we know he's a Heisman hopeful. 25 of 38 in the game, 282 yards passing. Did not throw a touchdown or a pick in the game. But, they pretty much limited his production because usually he marches up and down the field with his offense at will.
Right.
And Texas's defense just was not having it in Austin on Saturday. Their running back Hill also carried the ball for 33 carries, 117 yards, no touchdowns. There's a lot of no touchdowns in this game. So, and then we look at Sam Ehlinger for Texas, 22 out of 36, 241 yards on the day. Did throw an interception, and we'll come back to that interception because it was very costly for the Longhorns.
Yeah. And
their receiver, Jay Burke, 2 receptions, 99 yards. And now we're going to go back to the costly interception because this game ended up going to overtime, tied at 10. And Oklahoma State had possession first in overtime. They did get a field goal. And then in college football in overtime, they start you at the 25-yard line. And then you have 4 plays to try to get it in. Or if you decide to kick the field goal, then your defense has to come out and stop the other team from scoring. And at Texas, just can't. Just after such a great game, they played defensively. And there was no turnovers in the game at this point. To give it the way how back and forth this game was defensively, Sam Ehlinger's only interception of the day turns out to be the one to lose in the game. And it was it was just terrible. Like he tried to throw like a fade route the left side of the end zone, and it was just he threw it right to an Oklahoma State player. It was just like, how didn't you not see him there? And that ended the game. Oklahoma State survived 13-10 in overtime. But, I mean, again, coming into the game, they averaged 48.5 points a game, 600 total yards of offense. I mean, not offense, just total yards per game for them. They were held to only 428 yards. And Mr. C. Moody has some sound bites from that game of how it ended.
Yes, sir. Hold on one moment and let you hear how this game went down.
On 3rd and 4. Ellinger rolling to his left in all sorts of trouble. Floats one and it's intercepted. Intercepted. Ramon Richards, the pick, and that's your ball game. Texas loses another heartbreaker.
Another heartbreaker, as he said it. Comes down to it sometimes. I mean, sometimes it comes down to that final play.
Yeah.
It's all it takes sometimes. It was close. And I mean, for the offensive juggernaut that Oklahoma State is and to be held to 13 points, Texas had a very, very great chance to win this game. But they do not, and Oklahoma State survives and they advance. So other notable games that took place, Big Bad Bama 45-0 over Tennessee.
45-7.
45-7.
Yeah.
So they did. Oh, so Tennessee did score.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I discredit them. The touchdown, the one little touchdown that they got. I'm sorry, volunteer
you gotta give them
fans.
their points, man. And it was a 97-yard interception.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they earned that. I'm sorry. Definitely sorry for that. 97-yard interception return. You earned that. I do apologize. But you still lost by many.
Yeah. To say the least.
To say the least. I mean, that 7, it's still not good. Their head coach, I'm thinking of the old Miami Hurricanes coach. I don't know if you can look up his name. I know he's on the hot
coach from Tennessee.
Yeah, he's on the hot seat right now. I know it's Butch something. I think I have it from last week. I don't really know exactly. I can't remember exactly what his name. I know it's Butch something, but he's on the hot seat. Number 10, Oklahoma survives Kansas State 42-35. The Miami Hurricanes survive a scare from Syracuse to remain unbeaten 27-19. And then I was watching the end of this game, and I saw something that really made me proud just for the sake of sportsmanship in this game.
Okay.
Like, Syracuse's quarterback gave Miami fits the whole game. This dude was like running the football, and he was literally jumping up, giving people knees. Like, I'll show you some of the highlights of him running. Like, it looks like, you ever notice how Triple H used to do his knee, the running knee? That's exactly.
Oh, wow.
He's running the football. He jumps at a high point in the air. He's kneeing people in the air. I have to show it to you.
Okay. It's Butch Jones. That's the
Butch
that's
Jones.
The
I knew it was Butch something. Butch Jones. He is on the hot seat right now. Rocky Top. It's very rocky for him right now. But 27-19 win for Miami. After the game, like literally, you know, when the players are dapping up and the coaches, the defensive coordinator from Miami runs over to their quarterback from Syracuse, and he's talking to him. He's got his arm around him. He's like he's letting him know, man, kid, you are good. Like, I don't know exactly what he's saying, but you can tell it was like more of a praiseworthy thing.
Right.
And you don't really see that in sports sometimes, and he really went into like praise. He talked to him for about 2 minutes, and the commentator was like, man, that's what this sport is about. Like, he's letting that kid know, man, you gave me a heck of a day. You know, you made my job hard today. So, big win for the Hurricanes. They are undefeated on the season. Number 17, Florida State. Not Florida State. South Florida Bulls. They are undefeated as well, beating Tulane 34-28.
Look at that.
They are 7-0. You know, good start for South Florida right now, doing some really good things. LSU defeats Ole Miss 40-24, 3 straight wins now after that Troy loss. So it looks like LSU has gotten their act together. Auburn 52-20 over Arkansas after losing the previous week, getting back in the win column. Number 4, TCU Horned Frogs CJ's old for the moment team.
It's my fake alma mater.
Back. His fake alma mater, the Horned Frogs, 43-0 over the Jayhawks of Kansas. Number 15, Washington State back in the win column, 28-0 over Colorado. And number 22, West Virginia, 38-36 over Baylor. Now, for the Carolinas, for South Carolina is where we're from. No games for Clemson this week. They were on a bye week, as well as the USC Gamecocks. We do know Clemson 6-1, ranked number 7th right now in the nation. And the Gamecocks are 5-2 on the season as well in the SEC. So now we get ready to reveal to you guys the new top 10 this week. At number 10, Oklahoma Sooners 6-1. Number 9, after their big win over USC, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish at 6-1. Again, their only loss this season is to Georgia. So Notre Dame in the top 10 for Brian Kelly and company. Number 8, Miami Hurricanes undefeated at 6-0. Number 7, Clemson remains the same, 6-1 on a bye week, still in the top 10. Anxious to see how they're going to look back in action after a week off. Number 6, Ohio State Buckeyes, a tough test this week versus Penn State at 6-1. They've won 5 in a row. Number 5, Wisconsin, 7-0. Now, one thing about Wisconsin, they're not really getting a lot of respect. And it's because of their strength of schedule. A lot of people feel like they ain't played nobody.
Right.
But you're 7-0. But sometimes in college football, when that committee's on the ropes and trying to decide, hey, who's going to be the core 4 that's going to go to the college football playoffs, sometimes that strength of schedule can play into your favor. Sometimes it can work against you. So Wisconsin in the Big Ten division, they don't have Ohio State on their schedule this year. They don't have Michigan. They don't have Penn State. So they don't really have a game where they can win against a solid team until they possibly get to a Big Ten championship game and may have to face a Penn State or an Ohio State, depending how things shake out. And that could be the determining game for them to decide whether or not they're going to go to the college football playoff.
Okay.
Number 4, TCU Horned Frogs, 7-0 on the season.
That's right.
Number 3, Georgia Bulldogs, 7-0. Kirby Smart and company. Number 2, Penn State Nittany Lions and Saquon Barkley, the Heisman hopeful. Again, he has my vote. If the voting were up to me, I'd give it to him today. He's at 7-0 along with Penn State, number 2 ranked team in the nation. And number 1.
I feel like that had to be something special for the number 1 team. Even though we know who it is.
We pretty much already know. Fee, Fi, Fo, Fum. Big Bad Bama is number 1. 7-0, Nick Saban.
Dominant.
Mr. Dominant, man. He has got the college football NCAA on lock.
Yeah.
As the Usos say. He got it on lock. It is the Alabama
Penitentiary. I was just thinking
it's
that.
The Crimson Tide Penitentiary, man.
Perfect.
It's their world. We're just living in it at this point.
Definitely.
Bama looks strong, man. I just feel like they're going to be there in the end. It's Bama, and then there's everybody else.
Yeah, definitely.
At this point, I thought Clemson, the way they were looking early in the season, I said, well, maybe they can. It's going to be Bama and Clemson all over again. But given the way things have changed and a lot of teams have moved up, I'm not too sure on that now.
It's anyone's game as far as to compete against Alabama.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. So Bama's still holding it down at number 1. Now we do have some huge matchups coming up. Some ranked teams playing one another this week. Number 4 TCU is taking on number 25 Iowa State. And if you remember, Iowa State was the team that handed Oklahoma their first loss of the season a few weeks back. So now they're in the top 25, breaking in there.
Are they going to take down my Horned Frogs?
I don't know. The Horned Frogs may be in trouble, man. Those Cyclones are pretty dangerous.
Okay.
Number 14, NC State. Their only loss of the season is to the South Carolina Gamecocks. The first game of the season where they lost 35-28, last play of the game. The Gamecocks had that goal line stand at the end to win it. Since then, they've won everything. Every game they've played, they won it. They're going to travel to take on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Number 14 versus number 9 should be a really good matchup there. And then after this game, Notre Dame has a pretty favorable schedule. Now, the only thing that usually works against Notre Dame, because they're not in a power conference like an SEC or ACC,
right?
Big 10, Big 12, they're an independent school. So it's not like they have a conference championship game that they can depend on to, like, hey, we won the SEC championship or we won the ACC championship and we beat this team and that team. So their strength of schedule is everything. So anytime they play a ranked team, they need to win, because at the end of the year, they don't have a conference championship game to go to because they're an independent school.
Okay.
So it could work for them, but a lot has to happen. But sometimes other teams' resumes are more. It's a better looking resume versus there because they have conference wins that they beat teams during the course of the season, and then the championship game to get there. So Notre Dame, if they can kind of win out, it could potentially argue a case that they could go, but I don't see them going over a team that hasn't lost and that has won their conference championship. Number 3, Georgia versus Florida. So you got the Georgia versus Florida rivalry this week.
Oh, man, my cousins are
Georgia-Florida line. Florida-Georgia line, I think it's the name of the group.
Yeah.
So that should be a really good game.
So, and like I said, I got a cousin who's now he was residing in Georgia. He's a big Georgia fan, and then my cousin-in-law had just married. His sister is born and bred in Florida, so I know I would love to hear these two argue throughout the week as they get hyped about this Florida-Georgia game.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and it should be a good one. Could be trapped for Georgia. I mean, Florida's kind of one of those teams. It's not a pushover. Georgia's going to have to really bring the A game in this one.
Right.
And the huge matchup, the primetime matchup here. Second straight week, Penn State with a true test. Number 2, Penn State, traveling to the Horseshoe to take on the Ohio State Buckeyes.
I want to say
Penn State beat Ohio State last year in Happy Valley. Now they go to the Horseshoe, where Ohio State's already lost one game this season to Oklahoma. Now, I don't really see them lose at home that often. So
this is gonna be a test.
This is gonna be a test. This is probably gonna be your best matchup of the season right here.
Yeah.
Whoever wins this game is gonna be in the college football playoffs and potentially in the national championship game. That's just how I feel like this game has national championship ramifications written all over it right here. Whoever comes out of this game, mark it here today, will be in the national championship game.
I like that.
So those are some of your big matchups this week coming up in college football this week. We've recapped everything to some of the matchups that we saw, and then we told you some of the other matchups that took place, top 10, and now Moody's going to hit you guys with the Heisman hopeful.
This is, once again, this week's NCAA Heisman High Five. As of now, this is the list. Counting down at number 5. I think that he was here last week, Lamar Jackson, quarterback for Louisville. And so he was the leader, of course, for their win in Florida State, which they marked as their first win at Florida State Stadium, the Doak Campbell Stadium, since 1952.
Wow.
Yeah. So not only did he rank up 156 yards passing, he had 178 yards rushing in a passing and rushing touchdown. So throughout the whole season right now for passing yards, he has 2,478 total passing yards. And his rating for the season is 150.4. At number 4, we have Josh Adams, running back for Notre Dame. And this past week against USC, he had his highest scoring game, accounting for 18 points overall. And so this past game, he had 191 yards rushing. And for the season, he has 967 yards rushing, with just 8 touchdowns, averaging 9.2 yards a game.
That's huge.
So, I meant, averaging 9.2 per carry a game. That's what I meant. Thank you. So, at number 3, we have Baker Mayfield, who's managed to stay in the top 5 throughout the entire season, the quarterback for Oklahoma. He owned the 5th best QBR this past week at 93.6.
Okay.
So, and he also had a season high 69 yards rushing at this past week's game against Kansas State. So, but his passing for that game was 410 yards. And for the season, he has 2,347 total passing yards with 19 passing touchdowns. And his rating for the season is 200.4.
Wow.
Yeah. So at number 2, we have Bryce Love, who is the running back for Stanford University. And for this past week against Oregon, he ranked up 147 yards rushing and 2 rushing touchdowns. For the season, he has 1,387 yards rushing and 11 rushing touchdowns altogether. And at number 1, remaining at number 1 for over a couple of weeks now, we have Saquon Barkley, running back from Penn State University. This past week, he had 108 yards rushing with 2 rushing touchdowns. For the season, he has 757 rushing yards total and 8 rushing touchdowns. So that is your Heisman High Five for the week. And like D. Moody says, I agree with him. I feel like Saquon Barkley deserves the Heisman. And this will also make a good case not only for himself and for the team in this week's game against Ohio State.
Yeah. So. He put on a show last week, and I think he's going to do much of the same this week. But I think Ohio State will put up a better game than what Michigan did. But this is going to be a huge statement game for him again this week.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's going to give us all the coverage that we have to give you on college football. We've hit everything for some of the matchups that we revisited back from last week, and then reveal to you who the new top 10 is, and then some of the big matchups coming up this week in college football. Coming up next, we're getting ready to get into some WWE action. We know Survivor Series is looming a couple of weeks away. We're going to, after the aftermath of TLC from Monday Night Raw, how did things go after that? And how did things turn out on Smackdown Live? I know we had a big brawl between the brands. We'll find out how it all started. Come back with us. You're listening to Sports Moods, 2 Moodies.
1 duty.
Sports.
What's going on, guys? We are back. It's here at Sports Moves. 2 Moody's.
1 Duty.
Sports. We've already conquered this past week in the NFL as well as college football. And before we get into WWE, we're going to give you an update on the World Series right now between the Houston Astros and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Game 2 tonight is currently at the top of the 6th inning with 1 out, and it is now a tied game between the Houston Astros and the LA Dodgers.
What's the score of that game?
1-1.
1-1.
Yes, sir. So
next couple innings to tell the story.
And Peterson homered to right to tie. Well, yeah, to tie the game.
Cool.
At the bottom of the 5th.
So we got a good competitive game going on between Astros and the Dodgers.
So now we are about to get into some good old wrestling. And we have to start it off, of course, with the Monday Night Raw. As we are now, 24 hours after...
More than 24.
Monday Night Raw? I mean, from TLC.
Oh, yeah, about 72 hours.
Well, I mean, like, from TLC was that Sunday, now it's Monday Night Raw, so it's
20. Oh, you're doing it. I thought you were doing it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, you. I got your logic.
I thought you meant from today. I was like, no. TLC went last night.
Yeah. So this is how Monday Night Raw kicked off. And it kicked off with Kurt Angle, if I'm not mistaken. He announces what I've been hoping that they do for Survivor Series is make champion versus championship matches. And I'm so glad that they did this. Even though one of them I don't necessarily care to see, which unfortunately is Alexa Bliss versus Natalya, which, now that I said it, I might want to see that.
I don't want to see that.
Because now you got Alexa Bliss, who's like, both of these are heels, so it's a heel match. But you have Natalya, the submission expert, versus just a spunky, find any way to win Alexa Bliss. So I feel like it might be better than what I hope it won't be. That's how you feel, huh?
Keep going.
Okay. The other matches, of course, is the tag team. Now, this is going to be potentially the best match of the year, which is arguable considering all of the matches between the Usos and the New Day. But between Raw's Shield brethren, Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, taking on SmackDown's champions, the Usos. Yes. Yes, I hope so. I hope it's just as awesome.
We'll really find out if the Usos got it on lock after this one.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, we like you said, we shall see.
We shall see.
And then, of course, we have the main event, which will be Raw's... yeah.
You forgot one.
Huh? What? Oh, The Miz, the Intercontinental Championship, taking on SmackDown's United States Champion, Baron Corbin. You don't like this one?
I like that one either.
You don't like that one? Why not?
I'm gonna go into it.
Okay, we'll get into it later. Okay.
Because I need a good 3-4 minutes.
Okay.
To explain why.
And now we have the main event champion versus champion match, which is Raw representing Brock, because as you'll hear later on, Paul Heyman claims that Brock Lesnar doesn't come representing anybody. It's anybody that happens to have Brock Lesnar is just lucky to have him. So Raw has Brock Lesnar, Universal Champion, taking on SmackDown's WWE Champion, Jinder Mahal, the modern day Maharaja. So that's how Kurt Angle is explaining these things for the pay-per-view. And then The Miz, Sheamus and Cesaro, Curtis Axel comes out. And they're complaining about last night. Kurt Angle is just always looking at himself, and he shouldn't have involved himself because the Shield said they could take on any amount, so you should have let him do it without Roman. And now he's like, you know what? It's your fault. And Kurt Angle was like, you know what, I'm going to just get out the ring. And Miz was like, you're not going anywhere. And so they start to try to surround the ring. They're going to try and shield jump him this time. Which, as much as we talked about last week with Roman Reigns disrespecting Kurt Angle, and even though the difference is Kurt Angle ended up teaming with the rest of them, the Miz says some real, like, trying to make Kurt Angle his inferior when he's the commissioner. Well, no, the GM. The GM of Raw. I feel like some action needs to be taken, but I understand it because we get that every now and then.
It's the Miz, though.
I don't care. I don't care who you are.
It's the Miz.
I am the general manager of Raw. It's true. It's damn true.
I agree.
So, but while they're trying to surround Kurt Angle, in comes the Shield. Through the crowd, well, minus Roman Reigns, he's still out with sickness.
Oh, poor baby.
And so Kurt Angle tells him not only are they going to fight them, but to add on to the Shield for this obvious upcoming 3-on-3 tag match, we have somebody who decided to stay a night from TLC, Smackdown's AJ Styles, the phenomenal one. So, now we have a tag match. The Shield and Styles versus the It Bar, which I like to call it. Yes. How do you feel?
Weren't they saying at TLC that AJ Styles, this is a one-night only thing?
Yeah, but Kurt Angle said that we were able to borrow him for one more night. He decided to stay with us.
Bull.
Why?
You can't pitch something and say one night only and then the next night, we borrowed him for one more night.
But it's just like, you ask
just
like
to try to cover up your tracks.
But it's almost like going to Redbox. Usually when you go to Redbox, you rent stuff. It's for.
How you compare AJ Styles to Redbox?
No, I'm not comparing him.
AJ Styles.
I'm comparing the transaction. Like when you rent stuff, it's just for a night.
Champ that runs the camp.
But after you watch it, you might be like, "Hey, I want to get it one more night," and it can extend the time.
Runs the place.
I know. I'm not trying to demean AJ. I'm just trying to explain the logic of him adding an extra night to it. It's just like renting something and be like, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna get it one more night. Let me negotiate with you for one more night, and boom, I got you another night."
I said one night only. This dude is from another brand. Why is he on your show?
Because we still don't have enough people high quality enough to fight with the Shield.
Going into that. So they shouldn't have just said one night only.
No, they didn't. They might not have known that. Just like how they didn't know Roman Reigns and other person. I mean, Bray Wyatt wasn't going to be.
Person, right?
Oh, so sorry, Bray. I really think highly of you, Bray Wyatt.
Superstars to see Moody tonight.
That other guy.
Oh, the other guy. What's his name?
Something Brian White or something.
Bray Wyatt, man.
But so yeah, this is a good match. What you would expect from the performances of
get you tonight.
Oh, don't say that. Don't say that. Oh my gosh. If something happens to me, guys, if anything happens to me tonight, you heard D put that omen on my life. So, but
see Moody, man. You remember the name?
Yeah, you want to disrespect sister? No, man. I don't. I rebuke it. I'm sleeping with a whole bunch of holy oil and Bibles tonight. So, but in this match, man, it was a good match, a good tag match as we expect between Sheamus and Cesaro, who has been playing even more better as a tag team. It almost makes me forget how good they are as singles heavyweight competitors.
Cesaro's a heck of an athlete. Man.
Exactly.
And they say him and AJ Styles had some good spots in that match.
Yeah, they did. They really did, man. And I would love to see that in the future, something between those two. It eventually ends. We saw a lot of signature moves we haven't seen. Well, at least from Seth Rollins. He hit the Falcon Arrow. Haven't seen him hit that move in a couple of weeks.
I always thought that should be his finisher.
I think so as well.
Yeah,
I really like that.
I like the move.
I would like him doing that more so than the knee. I would like the knee to just be a signature.
Because you know how fragile his knees are. I thought he hurt it again at TLC.
I really did.
Here we go.
I really did.
Another Shield. A waste of time bringing the Shield back.
And then we have AJ, of course, hitting his Pele kick. Of course, he always going to hit that on somebody. This match was long. You know how long it is because it went through 2 commercial breaks. But eventually, while Seth and Dean dive out the ring on suicide dive onto The Miz and Sheamus, AJ Styles hits the phenomenal forearm on Cesaro for the win. And that's what we have. But in the midst of this, guess who comes out? Kane. The big red machine. Well, the big red monster now, I guess. Big red machine. But we'll find out why he wants to be a big red monster in a minute. He comes out, and then they all start to jump. The three of them, AJ Styles, Seth, and Dean, all start getting jumped, just like last night almost. And
I just feel like AJ Styles has nothing to do with any of this.
He doesn't. He's just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Which makes me understand what happens later on that night, actually, when I think about it. So, because in my mind, like you said, it's like, I'm Smackdown. I don't have to deal with you guys beating me up.
Get beat up by people that I don't even have nothing to do with.
Yeah, they would have made a good segue if they would have let AJ just back out. Like, hey,
like,
whoa,
this y'all.
I'm Smackdown.
Like, hey,
I'm not even going to be here next week. Why are we beefing? So, but then Kane comes out. They're jumping everybody. Kane chokeslams Seth Rollins. After he throws AJ Styles and Dean outside the ring, the Miz and Sheamus and Cesaro kind of just ease out the ring like, oh, okay, he's mad. And commercial break comes. He comes back and he decides to do a promo to say why he attacked Braun, because everybody's been talking about how he's the monster among men, and he wanted everyone to know that Braun is just trash. That's what he thinks of him, and that's why he threw him in the garbage last night, because he's trash. He wants everybody to know that there's always has been and always will be one monster, and that is Kane. And since he got rid of Braun Strowman, now he's going to be the one that says, I want competition or else. And
so
Cole,
they're really building this as if Braun Strowman can't beat Kane.
Yeah, they are. They really are.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they really are. And I'm going to show you how much worse they're building this to make Kane looks...
I'm like, why do we... Like, we just saw Braun Strowman do all the stuff he did to the Big Show. And I understand Braun Strowman is already over, so we don't need to put him over anymore. He suplexed the Big Show in the ring and imploded. He threw the Big Show through a steel cage.
And knocked it over.
All his battles he's had with Roman, Braun is already over, so we really have to build him up as weak going against Kane? Now, I understand Kane is not a slouch, but...
I mean, now, considering this part of his career,
we're trying to make it seem like Kane is unbeatable.
Yeah, considering that they played him as a joke in the last couple months before he's been out for this span of time.
Like...
So, yeah.
Braun Strowman can't beat Kane?
Yeah. And while they're saying this, now Cole makes he makes a statement saying that Braun may be out for some months. So, I don't know how... True, they could be using that as a hype to say that, oh, Braun Strowman is just so strong, he come back months before he's supposed to be returning. Or what I'm guessing is, because I know when we had our exclusive TLC recap, we talked about how it'll be a bad idea to put Braun Strowman in the Survivor Series, just Braun Strowman or Kane, because of the implosion that's possible. They could be using this so that they won't have to use Braun Strowman and have to force him into that implosion possibility for Survivor Series. And also the fact, like I said, SmackDown doesn't have anybody that should qualify enough to match Braun Strowman. So the best way to make this as even of a Survivor Series matchup as possible is to get rid of Braun.
So I can see logic in that.
Yeah, so that's...
He was in the match last year, though.
Was he? But they had Big Show last year. Did they?
No.
That was the year before.
5-on-5.
Who?
Strowman was in the...
But who was on the other side?
They had... SmackDown had Kevin O... They had... SmackDown had AJ Styles, Dean Ambrose, Randy Orton, Bray Wyatt, and... there was one more person.
But see, that made sense, though, because Bray Wyatt at that time, I think they had some sticks of Bray using Braun still.
Yeah,
like,
that thing. They had actually met up, and Bray was like, looking at him like, hey, I made you.
Right.
But that's how that went.
So while Kane says now he wants competition, in comes Finn Balor, which... I would rather see this feud than Braun and Kane, actually, because, the Demon versus the Red Demon. But he didn't
come out as the Demon, though.
No, he didn't. He came out as Finn Balor. And honestly, besides the fact that they made Finn look as resilient as you can make a heavyweight person look, I felt like this was a squash match for Kane to build him over. Honestly,
and I don't
because
think you feed Finn Balor to Kane.
And that's what they did, because in the end, after, like I said, Finn had some resilience, drop kick, doing the shotgun drop kick, almost setting up the coup de grace. But of course, Kane does his infamous sit up, pulls him down off the top rope. He breaks off, but then he ends up running into a choke slam, and Kane decides to choke slam him 2 more times. So 3 choke slams in a row for an easy pin, and that's it.
I was listening to JD from NY206 on YouTube. You know, we've heard the whispers of possibly Brock and Finn Balor at Royal Rumble for the Universal title. So how are we going to build Finn Balor up to potentially, even though we know he's not going to beat Brock Lesnar.
Right.
But he can't beat Kane.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's the argument JD from NY from 206 was making. He was just like, so we're going to build Finn Balor up to face Brock Lesnar potentially at the Royal Rumble if that goes through. And we're going to have him losing to Kane.
Right.
But we're supposed to believe he can beat Brock Lesnar.
But he might.
What's the logic in that?
What I feel should happen, because depending on if Braun Strowman is going to be out for some time, let this feud set. Because now Finn can be like, okay, now you face my demon. And like I said, we have that demon match. And then Finn overcomes Kane. But that still is a problem, because if Finn beats Kane, it's like you don't expect Braun Strowman to not be able to beat somebody that Finn Balor can beat. You know,
so
each person offsets each other for their future matches.
So I get what you're saying when you say that.
Right.
It is, but my thing is, if you...
Yeah, they shouldn't have used him as a squash
if anything,
match.
Balor, maybe still make Balor look strong and don't let Kane beat him clean.
Right. Yeah, or Finn Balor, Demon King, they beat each other and he wins the disqualification. And it still makes Kane look strong or something like that. So that way both person can go in saying, even though he got over on me, I'm still demolished him, or vice versa, going into Brock Lesnar.
Yep.
So, but that's what we have. So between that, we have Kurt Angle backstage, and in comes Smackdown's commissioner, Shane McMahon.
Here comes the money.
And so here we go. Money talks.
Money.
I got to shuffle the feet.
Dollar.
So Kurt Angle.
I like his theme, man.
Hey, he really does have a good theme music. So Kurt Angle backstage, he applauded Shane for letting him use AJ Styles 2 nights. So, and then they both start to go back and forth on, the Survivor Series coming up. Hey, Kurt Angle says we're going to beat you. And Shane's like, what? No, don't think like that. We did beat y'all last year. And Kurt was like, hey, I wasn't here last year. So now what? So they're going back and forth for this. So that's pretty much how it sets up.
I see something brewing here.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I'm going to give you my ideas.
Okay.
Let you go on with it, though.
Yeah, and you know what? You might see something else considering how it ends too. But I think So while we're still backstage, Alexa Bliss comes out into the ring to mock Mickie James, of course, as she always does, and why she's this. Mickie James wasn't this. She's too old and stuff. And so there was like, they should be telling her she deserves it or whatever. And so Mickie James comes in, doesn't say anything, kicks her in the stomach, hits her with this very dramatic high DDT. So, and then she looks over her body and was like, you know what? You do deserve it. That's it. And it just walks off. So I think it was like, like I said, Alexa was basically wanting the crowd to be like, I deserve being the best. And so Mickie was like, hey, you do deserve it. You deserve me to cut that tail. And that's what I came out and did. So
this may be a continuation. Right?
Yeah, that's what I feel like. I feel like this is a continuation of this feud.
But the way they made an interview look at the TLC, like she was...
but she did make a pop saying that she hopes this isn't the end.
For her, yeah.
So maybe, maybe creative was like, hey, we'll give you one more round. So
we'll bury you again.
Give you one more, right?
We'll get buried again. We got some more. We got a show.
Yeah, we got 3 more weeks. Yeah, we can bury you right before Survivor Series.
Yeah.
So, and then this is where, like, due to a storm that happened in our area, some of our footage got cut off, but I was able to kind of connect from what I saw on social media versus where it stops at. For me, it stops at Sasha Banks and Bayley backstage coming to Kurt Angle. That's where it cuts off, but I find out that Kurt Angle issues a triple threat match between Bayley, Sasha, and then I guess Alicia Fox came in to stake her claim as well to be captain. Triple threat. You got another multi-woman match. Your favorite? But this one has a purpose. This one claims the captain.
Supposed to have some kind of purpose. You're gonna win the right to go to do this. You're gonna win the right to fight Oscar. You're gonna win the right to be the captain of the Raw team. You're gonna win the right to see who's gonna go face the champion. I am so sick of these multi-women matches. These uncreative people.
Listen,
like. Who cares who's the Raw's captain? It doesn't matter. What do you get for being the captain? Like, what does that mean?
Huh? You
like,
get
what
to
does
lead.
That mean?
You lead the squad. That's what it is, guys. My audience, if the face that I wish you could have seen D Moody make just now when he started this rant is all the more reason why we have to start doing video broadcasting, because that was just too priceless. I don't know. I'm sure you heard me continue to laugh in the background while he ranted. But yeah, so this is his favorite coming up later on. Is a triple threat qualifying for captain.
Triple threat matches. How many fatal 4-ways, 5-ways?
Until they find a way to be more creative with their entire roster.
It's like they just sit back and say, "What can we do this week? we don't have a Raw Women's captain, so what can we do to figure?" I know, triple threat match.
Triple threat.
We'll just put them all in there together and let them fight it out, and whoever wins.
Could have did a fatal 4-way.
No.
Put Emma back in there.
I want them to stop with these multi-women matches. Like, I really do.
So right after this is where my television caught back on and caught Raw.
I'm glad I did. I'm glad the Storm knocked that out. I didn't have to see it.
So now I wish they knocked out the rest of this. It was an Elias versus Jason Jordan, which was a rematch for Sunday's pay-per-view, because they said it was a controversial call on whether or not
his shoulder was
down. Right. So, Jason starts to gain momentum. It starts to go back and forth, but towards the end, Jason gains momentum. While they're outside battling, he's spearing them into the ring and all this stuff. And so he puts him in the little corner where the infamous spear through the barricade always goes down. And while he's running, Elias smacks the mess out of him with a guitar.
Yeah, he did battle like that a few months ago. I actually like that, though.
Yeah, that might be the best part of that match. Let me tell you, the match immediate, like once he hit him, a whelp immediately appeared on his arm.
He hit him hard with that thing.
Yeah, he really did.
I like it though.
Yeah, I like that.
It brings me nostalgia back during the time of Jeff Jarrett.
Exactly.
That's what I was thinking. He would go over the head instead of, because he hit Finn Balor in the shoulder too. Like hit him across the head,
right?
Slap nuts like Jeff Jarrett used to do.
So, but oh man, I'm not gonna play it. But during this match, if anybody was lucky enough to listen to this match, Booker T was totally out of sorts throughout this match. You want me to play it?
I think you should.
Hold on. Let me tell you. Now, basically, to say it before I get into it, Booker T sounds like he either wasn't paying attention or just wasn't capable of paying attention. But I'm going to play the soundbite of part of what he did.
Opportunity for both men to impress General Manager Kurt Angle and the entire WWE Universe.
Okay, Buck, that was your opening. Just George in trouble right now, guys. You can say what you want to say. You can say what you want to say. My thing is right now, I'm concentrating on Elias. He's doing a great job keeping the pressure on this kid, Jason George. You guys, I don't know what you guys are looking for. Well, I was expecting you to say that Jason George probably already on the team.
If you hear Corey Graves genuinely laughing because Booker T out of nowhere starts to say that Jason Jordan's in trouble when Jason Jordan's clearly is in control at that part of the match. And once he realizes that, he turns it immediately as like, Jason's doing a great job in the ring. So, and then what makes it worse is that at the end when Elias decides to hit him with the guitar, and that of course disqualifies him in the match.
That's he's in trouble. Like,
so
probably foreshadow what was the
must be. And so Corey Graves was, ranting about, how he did this illegal thing. Booker T immediately goes, well, nobody said nothing when Jason Jordan was doing those illegal moves outside the ring. And there was no illegal moves. And Corey Graves was like, what illegal moves? And Bob Booker was like, oh, now you want to talk, Corey. Now you want to talk. And Corey Graves genuinely says, "You've lost it, Booker. You've lost it."
Corey Graves will. I like Corey Graves.
Yeah.
But Booker was on one that night.
Oh my gosh.
Booker was somewhere else.
Hilarious. I literally had to rewind it, record this, and rewind it again to watch this whole thing.
He probably wasn't paying attention.
No, he couldn't have been paying attention. Oh my goodness.
He was saying that Elias was
in trouble to start off.
Trouble.
No, Jason was in
Jordan
trouble.
Was in trouble, but he was actually like controlling.
Right. And right when I guess he finally saw it, and he was like, "Oh, Jason's doing a great job in the match." Like, well, not even 5 seconds after saying he's in trouble. So that was hilarious, man.
That's what I think. I don't know when Otunga is supposed to come back. If he's coming back, I don't know what. I know they were saying that he was making a movie. What kind of movie is he making?
It must be a lifelong documentary
I
or
don't
something.
know what it is. I thought Otunga would be back by now.
Yeah, me too.
Book is okay sometimes, but he just doesn't really, to me, don't really fit.
Yeah.
I like him how they had him before, like on the pre-shows,
right? Pay-per-views,
stuff like that. I don't want him every week on Raw.
Yeah, but that was hilarious to say the least. Next, we have Brock Lesnar coming down, of course, with his advocate, his mouthpiece, Paul Heyman. Hey! It's funny because now without the pyro, just hearing him yell is kind of hilarious because Brock Lesnar kind of has a higher voice. So you hear him yell, it's like...
You know why WWE went away from pyro?
Because they ain't have money.
Yeah, it's just saving that money because he...
Maybe he's saving it for WrestleMania. He's like, I got to...
Brock got that budget. Brock had to get paid. He's like, we gotta cut the pyro.
Yeah.
I gotta pay Brock.
It's like Brock's back. Man, we gotta cut it. He
it just don't look right when he does that.
And there's nothing happens. Yeah, it is weird.
But we give Kane his fire.
No, they don't.
They don't do his.
They
fire
don't do the
anymore?
fire. They just make the sound. Like I noticed it this past week, and I had to go back and look at the week before. What it is, the Titatron on the turnbuckles make the vision visuals, and it makes the sound, but it's no fire.
I used to love that part by Kane. He do like that.
Yeah, and you see, even after he does his matches now, he doesn't even do that. Like it just starts to dim into red theme, like red tint all over. But it's no, put his arms down and fire erupts. So Paul Heyman comes to, say that he's mocking Jinder's challenge because he barely wins in all of it. Yeah, this is a great promo, and I'm actually going to play a soundbite. I want to give just a little summary before I get into a depth part. So he basically is mocking how Jinder has barely been winning against everybody, but Brock is undisputed. And Paul has been praising Brock's last opponent to show, I guess, a sense of humanity. But he's like, but Jinder? But you're not even worthy, of an opponent, especially not a champion. He says Smackdown has a consolation prize champion. That was very sharp.
Preach it, Heyman.
Preach it, Heyman. All right, now I'm going to play a little soundbite of all of everything he said, just a little bit of it.
Flagship show Monday Night Raw. Brock Lesnar has eaten through the single most stacked heavyweight division in the history of WWE. That fact is undisputed. But you, Jinder Mahal, the make-believe Maharaja, with the sing-along brothers standing behind you doing my shtick of introducing you? Are you kidding me? You're not Brock Lesnar's equal. You're not Brock Lesnar's contemporary. You're not Brock Lesnar's counterpart on Smackdown Live. You're not even a worthy pretender to the throne of being WWE Champion. When we think of WWE champions, we think of Bruno Sammartino, Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, Ric Flair, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, John Cena, and ladies and gentlemen, my client, Brock Lesnar.
Before you get into it, I just
Go ahead.
Paul Heyman just preached the gospel.
The gospel?
Well, he might as well be
Man.
that's the real that you need to hear. And I love how he played on the Maha.
Yeah, that was funny.
That was funny. But then when he drilled it home, was like, you're not even a worthy champion. When we think of world champions, we think of
Bruno Sammartino,
Hulk
Hulk,
Hogan, Triple H, Shawn Michaels,
Ric
Flair, Savage,
John
and
Cena.
Brock. Even John Cena, even
Right.
though Brock and John had their battles, like that shows you Heyman has respect for Cena.
Right.
And with Mahal, it's just not the same. Like you barely, like, you didn't get a chance to play it in the clip, but Paul Heyman will also go on to say, like, hey, you barely got past Randy Orton. And look what Brock Lesnar did to Randy Orton. He destroyed him. He said, you remember what happened the last time somebody from Smackdown fought Brock Lesnar?
He said he broke all barriers of PG rating.
Yeah. And you barely got past Nakamura. But you think you're going to beat the Beast? You think you're going to beat Brock Lesnar? This dude over here fighting Roman Reigns, Samoa Joe, Braun Strowman. And you can't even get past... I mean, not saying Randy Orton's a pushover because he's a 13...
Right, but in comparison to what Brock has done to Randy Orton.
Yeah, but look what Brock did to Randy.
Exactly.
I mean, like, easy.
Yeah.
That's how you know the level of... that Brock is on.
Yeah.
And you think you're going to beat Brock Lesnar. Like, you can't even wrestle. So my thing is, you think you're going to beat the Beast, like, you got to be out of your mind.
You know what? Maybe that was a shoot from just the players, the actual wrestlers' perspective. Because, like I said, we know that the reason that he's champion is because of the India outreach.
Like, you told me, y'all.
It's like, it's really your fault. And so, like, I feel like the player, like the wrestlers, right, really, like, have that kind of angst against them because we know that he's having it and going to hold it for some time because of this India expansion and them trying to draw that crowd in India. And so they feel like, hey, we need somebody that looks like you and has your ancestry. Because, like I said, we know that he is born Canadian, but his family ties into India. So that's what justifies them, the Canadian, as you call it. So that's what justifies them putting him and characterizing him as the modern day Maharaja and saying, he's from India because of his family wise, not necessarily his literal birthplace.
But then my thing is, it's just like, dude, what you've done nothing. You act as if your title reign is great. You've done nothing. Every time you've won, you needed help to win.
Yeah.
And you think the Singh brothers gonna help you beat Brock Lesnar?
Oh no,
that ain't even gonna happen. You thought Randy Orton got brutal with the Singh brothers. Brock, that's a whole nother story.
The only way
suplex both of them at the same time.
Yeah,
I probably can wrap both his arms around both of them. And
he's gonna do a double F5 for both of them.
Yeah, something.
He has to.
They can be stupid enough to try to run up on Brock if they want to. You better ask J&J Security. That's who they remind me of. Like I said,
definitely.
J&J Security is two little guys that's just
hanging around.
They had heart though.
Yeah.
I mean, they ran up on
They tried
Brock. They tried it, but they didn't succeed.
So, to say the least, they ended with saying the challenge is accepted between Survivor Series Brock versus Jinder Mahal. But Paul Heyman also said that, for the record, Brock isn't fighting for a brand supremacy here. Mm-hmm. He says that rather any brand that brags Brock Lesnar is the supreme brand. And the fact that to say that Jinder is just going to Suplex City is the entrance of what all that Brock's going to do to him. Mm-hmm. And that's what he made that reference. Like he said, the last time he faced somebody from SmackDown, he broke those PG ratings. So, yeah, Godspeed, Jinder.
Yeah. I mean, don't hinder Jinder, but he definitely gonna run into a wall.
He's gonna limper Jinder.
He's barking up the wrong tree. About now.
He's definitely gonna injure Jinder. That's what he's gonna do.
Injure Jinder. Because I mean, this is not the fight you want.
No.
Like literally, Brock Lesnar look at him as a joke.
Exactly.
You saw how he was laughing. He
Right.
was literally like laughing. Like this person actually thinks.
Yeah, this isn't a threat.
That's how that goes to show you that like sometimes, even though all this is scripted, they still have their personal opinions. Kind of like you brought up how Kevin Owens and Randy, or how Randy Orton
Right.
was about Kevin Owens. Like really, and then Brock is like, this really you paper champion, you imposter, you want to be, you can't even be a champion. You can't even sell a champion by being a pretender. So what makes you think you can take me down?
Exactly. So that's what we have coming up.
I
So,
definitely don't want to see that.
oh, I do, because I want to see him get destroyed. That's why.
I want to see him get destroyed.
That's why I want to
but
see
I'm just
it.
saying, like,
Now, if they somehow play it to make Jinder stronger than, or some kind of match for Brock Lesnar, unless they have instilled in Jinder some kind of wrestling move format that we don't know about before Survivor Series. But that's what I'm saying. That's the only way that I could want to see them make Jinder somehow capable of being a contender to Brock. Because what I feel is going to happen is they're going to make Jinder, they're going to make Jinder last with Brock Lesnar. It's going to be out of nowhere. Jinder starts getting hype because now we're looking at size on size. So Jinder now, he can withstand a couple and he's going to try to do something on Brock Lesnar. And like you said, if in recent weeks we've seen
they let Jinder beat Brock.
But
Strowman couldn't do it. Something wrong.
But I'm not saying he's going to beat him. But I'm saying this should be a demolish. This should be demolishing. They're almost like how we felt that Asuka was with Emma. But then you saw how Emma played so much stronger than the weeks coming up to it. Yeah. But I like that. But now we know how Jinder is, and like I said, unless his skill set, because I don't feel like his skill set in any format is going to look good enough to say he's competing with Brock. Okay. So unless they. Like I said, unless they're behind the scenes working on a whole nother moveset for Jinder, this shouldn't be a good match.
Once the knees start going in that chest and Brock get him in that corner, he take about 3 or 4 of them suplexes. He go wish he was back in India.
Like, like for instance, if they can allow Brock Lesnar to do what they did to Randy Orton in that amount of time and just leave him like that, that should be definitely what they should do to that.
Colossus on Brock.
Oh, if he gets any Colossus on Brock, that match is a fail to me. Unless
he didn't get a chance to even do his finisher on Brock.
Right. Now, I will say this: the only way that they could play it smart is if, like, the Sin Brothers have to be the dirtiest they've ever been. Like, every time they get a chance to touch Brock Lesnar, they have to try and low blow him. That's the only way that I can see it being some kind of way in Jinder's favor. Yeah, I mean, definitely, but I'm saying, like, they really have to, like, play dirty. Like, one Singh brother sacrifices himself in front of Brock, and then the other comes from behind and up. What's that?
They make him try to hurt Paul Heyman and distract Brock.
Trying to, like,
Heyman gonna be on the outside. Heyman
right.
ain't really a fighter, so
they're gonna look at Brock,
like, distract Heyman, or like.
That'll work.
Have Brock distracted and maybe Jinder can slip behind him.
He might and hit a Colossus
and catch him.
But he's not going to win. Yeah, but we can start to see how that
they are going to have to be creative if they're going to try to scam a win on Brock.
Yeah. At least get any kind of competition in this match. They have to really be creative with the Sin Brothers, like you said. I really like that strategy playing on Paul Heyman. Like,
you know how that's what Joe did.
Right, that's true. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, I hope they do that. That'd be a lot better. But backstage, we have Kalisto getting interviewed about losing at TLC. He's like, you know what? He's invoking his rematch because he can't respect losing to Enzo. But tonight, we have Mustafa Ali come in, Cedric Alexander, Rich Swann, and Grand Metalik. And they're getting ready for, guess what? One of your multi-purpose, and this is probably your best one, a 10-man tag cruiserweight match.
I thought they could do every single.
You might as well say this is
I suck the cuss. Just have a Royal Rumble. Just put everybody in the
But this is the cruiser.
Every show off with a battle
with a battle royal.
Yeah, every hour on the hour, just do a battle royal.
But this
y'all love all these people in the ring,
right?
Together.
This is the Cruiserweight Survivor Series. 10 man. The Cruiserweight Survivor Series right here. And that's what sets up for later tonight. And this, I'll let you know what the team names are when the match comes. But there are team names to this. There are definitely team names. So now,
I work for WWE career. I make bank. Just sitting there, just throw people together.
It's like, you know what? We've never done.
That's brilliant.
We haven't done a 7-man yet. What?
For the first time ever.
You should put a ladder. Make it a ladder match, 7-man, and put a chair on top of the ladder. That's what we do. So, but now, like I said, speaking of your multi-person matches, now we're ready for the women's triple threat match to see who's going to qualify to be the Raw's captain.
Quintuplet.
A quintuplet match. 6-pack challenge, a 6-pack triple threat. That way we can have 18 people out. What if they did that, though? That would be funny. We have Alicia. I was about to say Alasha Banks. Wow, it's too many people. It really is too many people. Alasha Banks, Bailey Fox, and it's Alicia Fox, Sasha Banks, and Bailey all competing for the opportunity to become Raw's women's captain for the upcoming Survivor Series pay-per-view. So, this match, like we said in past weeks before TLC, Emma started to look stronger. Mm-hmm. This time we see Alicia Fox looking stronger in this match, actually taking out Bailey and Sasha Banks one by one. So we actually get, battles between the two. Alicia Fox actually going in between the two with some good moves here and there. Sasha and Bailey both gang up on her. They take her out the ring, drop kick her back out the ring. But after the commercial break, Alicia gains control again. So then we have a good pop. We have a 3-woman slam off the turnbuckle. We have Bailey power bombing Alicia Fox while suplexing Sasha Banks. It was a really good. I actually like that move. Mm-hmm. Then we have Bailey doing the Bailey bomb on Fox, but Sasha Banks breaks it up. And so now they're going one-on-one. But what I really liked this time was while Bailey's setting up to do the Bailey bomb on Sasha, Alicia Fox is right behind her doing the little mocking her moves. But now she turns Bailey around and hits the Bailey bomb on Bailey. So that was a really good pop for her. And then she tries to knee Sasha. Sasha knocks it down, hits her with the bank statement. And, she's fighting around the ring. She gets out, and she throws Sasha into Bailey while she's trying to come into the ring. Looks like Sasha hits her head, falls into the corner. And she rolls up Bailey for the win. The most shocking thing I saw tonight, besides what happens later on. So that means that... Go ahead. Still a bad move.
Cares who's the captain of the team. So we literally had to have a triple threat match to decide who was going to be the captain.
Yeah. So now Alicia Fox is the Raw Women's Captain.
What does that do for her?
It pulls her over. Because now, like I said, man, this is a build. Because now this makes her look stronger. So she's going to have a better match Survivor Series. Because remember, she's next to get sacrificed by Asuka. She's next on the list. Like, Asuka's going to be in this. Asuka might be in this 5-way.
I think she is.
She should be. And so that means Raw should win because of Asuka. But, yeah, Alicia Fox is next to be sacrificed. So now we have to build Alicia up to look strong. Because we did that with Emma. Now it's going to be Alicia. Because we're still trying to make it good matches.
For the right.
Huh?
You have to fight for your right.
So, there you go, Alicia Fox.
I'm just saying, man, you got to fight for the right to do everything.
Yeah, have to. Speaking of fighting for your rights, we have a 10-man tag team cruiserweight match. And now I get to tell you the teams. On Enzo, I will tell you what the names are for Enzo's side. It's Enzo Amore, Tony Nese, Drew Gulak, Noam Dar, and Aurora Davari. Excuse me. And their team is the Zo Train.
I don't even have to press the button anymore.
And so the team we know on the other side is Kalisto, Cedric Alexander, Rich Swann, Mustafa Ali, and Grand Metalik. And their team is Team Lucha. Like, it literally said Team Lucha. So, I'm going to... Go ahead. I got you.
I just can't.
So, But now, the Zoe Train comes in first. And because Enzo still has a, raspy voice, he lost his voice before. Drew Gulak is literally like reading off of a prompt Enzo's thing to say on behalf of Enzo. And it was pretty hilarious to me, actually, because he said it as professional and the exact opposite of Enzo's swagger as possible. Mm-hmm. So it was like, I am a certified G and a bona fide stud, and you cannot teach that. So I thought that was pretty funny. I actually did. And but he actually did a good shot dissing the Packers. He's basically said what he's going to do to Kalisto is what whoever defender was that took out Aaron Rodgers. And I thought that was really kind of deep. Yeah.
That's still kind of...
Yeah, because he's legit injured, and he can't play for the rest of the season. So, yeah, that was pretty bad. That was a real low blow, the Aaron Rodgers injury. So, Corey Graves, throughout this whole thing, Corey Graves is, like, really taking shots on how horrible Enzo is. Like, so much so that Michael Cole is like, God, like, Corey, you have to accept the fact. And he was like, yeah, but I don't like, it almost is like Corey Graves really has beef with Enzo Amore, like, in real life. And he started letting it show how
I don't think he has a true dislike for him.
Yeah, so he was really like taking as many shots as he could on Enzo in this match. Throughout this match, it was all right. It was a pretty good match. Drew Gulak got super kicked by the entire Kalisto team, Team Lucha outside of the ring. While we're outside the ring, everybody jumps on the rest of the Zoe Train. Now, while everybody's fighting each other, Enzo is trying his best not to get involved in all the action. But while Drew Gulak, I think, was in the ring with Rich Swann, he bumps into Enzo, falling out the ring, tagging him in. So now he's forced to get into the ring with Kalisto. And so Kalisto is, of course, dominating him. But, of course, Enzo, the Zoe Train, stops the pin. And Enzo starts to get a little momentum now back between the two. He DDTs him off the top ropes, which I love when he did that. That's probably the best move Enzo has besides his special, the Jaw Dunzo. But when he DDTs him, the Team Lucha comes in to stop the pin. And so now they throw all of the Zoe Train out the ring, and one by one, everybody's jumping off of one person. So Cedric jumps on somebody. Who was the other one? Grand Metalik jumps on somebody. Rich Swann jumps on somebody. And Mustafa Ali jumps on somebody. And that leaves Kalisto in the ring with Enzo. Hits him with the Selena Del Sol. Ja Dunzo. That's it. Team Lucha. Why you gotta give me that look, though? No, man. Not Kalisto.
All of them, man. All that, man.
For the 10-man match.
Oh, I didn't. Like, they done got me so discombobulated. I'm hitting the wrong sound effects for the wrong thing. It's just, I'm just tired of just.
So now, this is. So technically, that was the main event. Of the night. Because what we have next is Kurt comes out to try to announce the 5 men of the Survivor Series pay-per-view. But then Shane McMahon comes down with seemingly the entire SmackDown roster coming through the crowd like the Shield. Just have to throw that in there. So when he comes in the ring, he goes right up to Kurt Angle and he just says, "Under siege." And Kurt Angle starts to get. He has the fright in his eyes. He starts to go out the ring. While he's going to go back to up the ramp, Shane tells the SmackDown roster, he says, "SmackDown, go get him!" Like, just a bunch of dogs. And they start marching backstage. First, they run into Apollo Crews and Titus O'Neil. And I thought it was hilarious because Xavier Woods, he's like, "Hey, Apollo! Titus O'Neil, what's good?" And while he's saying that, everybody else just immediately just dogs them down.
It was definitely.
Oh, my gosh. Demolished. It was great. Like, and they jumped them. Rusev ended up super kicking Apollo. Then Baron Corbin takes out a worker. They knock down the Raw TV that everybody looks at when they're backstage. And so then they go into a locker room. No, Kurt Hawkins and Goldust and Curtis Axel try to take them out. Of course, they're getting beat up. They get beat, as I put it. That's the key word. The key word in this is beat. That's what I wrote. And so then they go into a locker room, and I couldn't see everybody, but I saw Matt Hardy, Jason Jordan, someone else. They got beat. Then they go into the next locker room. They take out.
Matt Hardy was in the bathroom.
Yeah, he was in the bathroom, and somebody just. So he was like, "Oh, what's happening? This is it." So, oh man! Then the next locker room they go into, looks like it has Elias and the Good Brothers. They get beat, and then some of Raw's women, the B team women, I think Dana Brooke and somebody, they see the SmackDown Roman, but they run like immediately, like they take off. And then they run into, actually later on, that happens before, and then they actually run into the main women, Sasha Banks, Bayley, Mickie James, no Alexa Bliss, and one more, of course, and Alicia Fox, and they get beat.
I like how when before they saw them, like the men were standing at the front, so you like, I know the men ain't gonna jump on.
Right, so you see the girls come
slithering through, and I like how Becky Lynch was like,
yeah, and since we're talking about them sliding through the crowds, you might have seen it come through on social media. Apparently, Natalya decides to grab Zack Ryder while she walks past him. I'm not going to say where. I'm going to let you use your imagination or find it on Instagram. That's where I saw it. But yeah, that happened actually, and so they got beat, huh?
I was like, man, that when you showed that to me, I was like, really?
Yeah, I was like, on TV. I guess she thought she was going to get by with that. And so then, while they're still walking through the background, then the Shield, Seth and Dean Ambrose, they jump on the crowd. They're
the only ones that really got some kind of offense.
Yeah, they really did. They Seth looked like he knocked out 4 people. Dean had a chair. He's hitting people. But then they start getting beat. Up. And so while they're getting beat, it looks like Rusev and Baron Corbin, they get Kurt Angle, they have him by the arms, and they're making them look at the Shield, like, look what we did to them. And so they pull Kurt Angle out.
Kurt got this crazy look on his face.
He's like, what? Oh my gosh.
He's like, oh my God, my children.
So, yeah, like, my children. But notice, like, all the people, of course, Braun Strowman wasn't there. You didn't see Kane get beat up. You didn't see Alexa Bliss get beat up.
Brock was gone.
Yeah, Brock was gone. So, of course, they couldn't have that happen. So, when they bring Kurt Angle back up the ramp, they bring him into the ring. And Shane says this, and I rewind it so I can quote it. It says, at Survivor Series, I want you to bring your gold medals, what's left of your Raw roster, and we're going to finish what we started. Oh, it's true. It's dang true. And then they all just walked out through the crowd. And while they were walking, like, Kurt Angle just, like you said, had that stunned look like, you just destroyed my family. Like, it's just my heritage. Everybody's dead but me.
But I love those faces Kurt Angle made. They're priceless. Yeah. Like, you'll see them a lot of times on a lot of memes and stuff. But the big thing, some of the issues I had with this.
Okay.
And I know we're kind of running low on time. We may have to get it on to the next one.
Yeah.
But first off, we build up Shane McMahon's return for SmackDown Live.
Right.
Next week. So, but he shows up on Raw before he goes to his home show. So it's like, I understand the invasion, so it catches everybody off guard. But it was just like, I was like, okay, so how they ended SmackDown last week, like, oh, you'll have to answer Daniel Bryan says you'll have to answer to Shane. But then Shane shows up on a whole nother show.
Vince McMahon was like, I don't care about that. Yeah. Put him on Raw.
So it's like we're all rushing into this Survivor Series thing. There was no build for it. And like JD said from NY206 today, as I was listening to him on my way here, they never really do anything cross brand wise to get you excited for this. It's like when Survivor Series pops up, that's when they started doing it. They don't do anything through the year. Throughout the year. Have somebody say something to drop a little jab at this person on this brand, or drop a jab at this person, or have somebody from Raw just sitting in the crowd at SmackDown one night, just randomly just sitting.
I would like that.
And then standing in the crowd like you suck or whatever, or anything, or just have somebody pop up on a show. Or when people are cutting promos, take a shot at somebody.
And what I think, and
get people going about it.
I would add on to that, like any of the major pay-per-views where we add all the brands together, we should have somebody battle the other side. Not saying that they should always do that, but like attack somebody. Like during one of the Smackdown matches in this let's say Royal Rumble, because that's both sides, the Shield might come out and take out the Usos for whatever reason. Well, of course not the Usos, but they take out Shelton Benjamin and Chad Gable. So now they're going back and forth. Like you said, now we'll see Shelton Benjamin and Chad Gable on Raw one week. Mm-hmm. We might see Roman Reigns on SmackDown one week. And, like you said, it starts that feud throughout the year.
People interested into it. And it's just like, that's the only thing. Because it's like, all this feels forced. It feels like, it's Survivor Series, though. We got to sell this pay-per-view, Raw versus SmackDown. Like, and then all year long, it's almost like they're two separate entities.
Yeah.
Obviously that's the way it's designed to be, but it's like it can never cross over, like they never cross paths or anything.
Right.
So I think you need to do that because we're all still under the same umbrella, the WWE. So we still need to, like, if we know Survivor Series is the same time every year.
Yep.
So build it up.
At least at SummerSlam.
SummerSlam from the summer on, or even if you don't do it from the summer on, throughout the year to get people. But getting into the brawl before, I like how they did Chad Gable going at Jason Jordan first, because obviously Jason.
Oh
Jordan,
I didn't even see that.
Yeah,
okay.
Jason, if you go back and look at it, when they went in the locker room, Jason Jordan,
Chad
Gable was the one who started it. He was because Jason Jordan had like the towel over his head.
Yeah.
And then he looks up and he sees him, and then Chad Gable
I like that.
All on top of him.
It was so hectic. I didn't know who started with who. I
didn't like Nakamura with him. He just did not.
He didn't look like he fit in. Like he was the Asian
look
kid.
At him as that type of like a gang banger. Like let's go do this. Let's go take him out type thing.
Yeah, I didn't. It took honestly. It wasn't until they got in the locker room that I noticed he was in there. I was like, hold on, is that Shinsuke?
That's what I was like, that Nakamura. And
right.
Bobby Roode is there. But then my thing is, AJ Styles just wrestle with these dudes,
and he beating up Dean Ambrose.
And he turn around fighting the same dudes he just held.
Yeah,
I don't get it. Like
that
it's like.
Funny.
It doesn't. It did. Like,
he was like, "Hey, no, you know what? I understood that part." He was like, "You know what? I come here and wrestle with you guys on Monday Night Raw, and I get beat up by 4 dudes. All right, it's your fault for this. This was on you right here."
But I was just like, how contradictory is that? Like, okay, first off, we say he's gonna be on it one night only, and then you turn around and let him fight with the Shield and all that, but then hours later. He's fighting them.
Right.
Like it's I don't know.
Okay, so while we got 2 minutes left, you got any other thoughts? If not, I want you to rate it out of 10. What you thought of Raw
out of 10, Monday Night Raw. I didn't really see a lot of it because I lost power, so I only saw the last part of it. I love the Paul Heyman promo.
Yeah,
the matches on there. Raw just didn't do anything for me. Even though with the brand brawl, it was good to see that, but I really wasn't overly excited. So I just, if I had to rate it, 4 out of 10.
I knew you were going to. It's always less than 5. It's always less than 5.
That's just me, man.
Okay. If I had to rate it out of 10, honestly, I'm going to give it a, I thought it was good. The invasion was very good for me. I'm glad, even though, like you said, I think they should make some more of a storyline for this instead of forcing it in the last 4 weeks before the pay-per-view. But I like that. I like the looming possibility of a Shane-Kurt Angle fight.
Mm-hmm. I think that's where we're headed.
Yep.
Or they're at least going to be on the 5 on one of the members of each team.
Right. Even though it was a big multi-man match, I like the 10-man. I did like that. I did. I must admit. And the Paul Heyman promo. That's why you can't do it. I'll do it for you, though. I'm going to give it.
Not the Paul Heyman promo, but for the 10-man.
I got to give it a 7 out of 10. I got to. The only bad thing I had was the women's match, man, honestly. But that's it, man. We are going to wrap this up. So we are done with Raw. So when we come back, we're hitting up SmackDown Live, but we just accomplished NFL past week, NCAA college football, and we just did Monday Night Raw. We're going to get into some SmackDown Live, then we're going to get back onto the World Series and start talking about NBA and get into our predictions for the NFL Week 8. We are Sports Moves, 2 Moody's,
1 Duty.
Sports. We'll be right back.